police will go further still to protect us against the profound challenges of terrorism, organised crime, cyber attacks, and, of course, irregular migration across the English Channel.
A public inquiry finds the Horizon post office scandal drove at least 13 people to suicide. A report lays bare the full scale of the horror.
The Inflected Blood report exposes the devastating impact of compensation delays in what's been called the NHS's worst ever treatment disaster.
With the Office for Budget Responsibility is sounding the alarm on fragile public finances, we're asking whether Labour has lost its grip in the economy.
12th of July celebrations are set to take place across Northern Ireland this weekend. We'll be looking ahead to see what's in store.
It's the end of the road for Cam Norrie at Wimbledon as he crashes out to the back-to-back champion Carlos Alcaraz. Chelsea are through to the final of the Club World Cup, and the Lionesses face a crucial Euro clash against the Netherlands in Zurich this evening.
A little more cloud around today, but for most a day of sunny spells. A little warmer than yesterday, but it is going to get hotter as the week progresses. Join me later for a full forecast.
It's a very good morning to you on this Wednesday morning, wherever you're watching, however you're listening. You're very welcome to the programme. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Miriam Cates, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Morning, gang. How are we all?
Very well,
Good.
yourself?
Good evening, yes. Good seeing you. Are we all very French now with Macron being
Maybe.
here? Yeah.
It's an amazing spectacle, isn't it? The pomp and the pageantry and seeing them all dressed beautifully for that state banquet.
We do it very well.
We do.
Will it have any effect on them? Do you think it softens them up in any way?
Well, possibly. I mean, he's not going to get another state visit, is he, in his remaining time? But I'm sure it's a wonderful experience. But all the important stuff happens behind the scenes, doesn't it? And I think today it's going to go a bit sour. That'll be my prediction.
Does Macron not make a good point about the pull factors for this country? He's criticising Starmer for that. I think, you know, we criticise Macron a great deal, but I think he's got a point over that. I think there are too many pull factors coming.
Well, a lot of people think he has a point over that, Aidan, and we're going to be discussing that today, getting some reaction to that. And that is our top story this morning. The French president will point the finger at the Prime Minister, blaming Britain for the soaring number of migrants crossing the Channel.
Yes, Macron is demanding tough action to make the UK less attractive to illegal arrivals, including a crackdown on black market jobs.
Now, this comes as the King hosted him last night for a state banquet at Windsor.
In a speech, King Charles declared Britain and France would not be friends without their differences, before sharing his concerns over what he called irregular migration.
Today, our two countries face a multitude of more complex threats, emanating from multiple directions. As friends and as allies, we face them together. Of course, we would not be neighbours if we did not have our differences. Our security services and police will go further still to protect us against the profound challenges of terrorism, organised crime, cyber attacks, and, of course, irregular migration across the English Channel.
Macron is expected to announce a new agreement on Thursday with the British government, despite branding Brexit regrettable.
He went on to highlight concerns that British and French societies are growing apart.
Since the last time a French president spoke before you in 2008, Europe has changed. First of all, of course, because the sovereign British people choose to leave the European Union in 2016, a decision that we respect, even if we found it deeply regrettable. And today there is a risk that our societies are growing apart, that our young people do not know each other as well and may end up strangers, at a time when international current events remind us on a daily basis of our common future. Let's fix it.
Well, joining us now in the studio is former political advisor Charlie Rowley. Charlie, bonjour. Did you watch the 40-minute speech to Parliament?
I did, and if you're one of the lefty lurvies out there that longs to be back in the EU, I'm sure you enjoyed it. But But I think it was a little bit in bad taste. You know, this is a guy who we've paid millions of pounds to, of UK taxpayers' money, to stop the boats. It's not irregular migration, it's illegal migration. And all the people want in this country is just fairness. We'll welcome people that want to work hard, play by the rules, do the right thing. But if you come to the country illegally, especially through a small boat crossing, and you're able to hop on a Deliveroo bike or an Uber Eats bike or some sort of takeaway bike just to get a job right from the off, when there are lots of young people out there struggling for work, I think that's unfair.
But that's the point he was making, wasn't it? That because we allow that and we don't regulate it and we don't crack down on it, that creates the magnet that pulls people across the channel.
Well, I mean, as part of his speech, I suppose he has got that point that lots of people ask Sir Keir Starmer, why has that loophole not been closed? That should be something pretty easily you should do. You should be able to have to show some sort of documentation before you work in any kind of job, I would have thought. But the idea that, we need to have some sort of new relations and, the French have gone out of their way, I think, at times, to talk down the UK on the back of Brexit. I voted to stay in the EU, but I recognise that debate's over. The idea that the small boats crossings has increased because of Brexit, I don't think is fair. If you've got an agreement in place whilst you're in the EU, I'm sure you could continue that in good faith.
But he's right, Charlie. Surely he's right when he says that Starmer has got to make Britain less attractive to migrants.
He absolutely does. And look, whatever people thought about Rwanda, it was very costly. It never really got off the ground. But the idea that we then soon learnt that other countries in the EU, like Germany, were looking at a similar scheme after the UK had built a significant amount of infrastructure in Rwanda, I think shows that a deterrent had been taken away before a proper plan had been put in place. So that was a pull factor. But you're absolutely right. People are fed up of that pull factor.
Macron is the kind of last of the European globalist elite, isn't it? And if you listen to the content of the speech, it was pure, reheated kind of centrism from 20 years ago. But the delivery was very impressive. I mean, he's far better orator than anybody we have in our parliament, I would say, even though he was speaking his second language. He regularly departed from his script and spoke fluently in English. I mean, his accent's quite thick, as French accents often are. But nevertheless, his delivery was quite impressive.
Yeah, I think it was. And look, whether you agree with the politics or not, you can't fault someone who is under pressure in his own country. France lost their Prime Minister not so long ago. They might be facing elections again. His poll ratings are not very good at all. And to be able to come to the UK and talk about an issue that lots of people care about, that gets a lot of people exercised in a way that was quite fluent, you're absolutely right. Yes, he's a good politician, whether you don't agree with the politics. I'm trying to find the good points here, Charlie. Well, but I think you're right. Whether you disagree with or agree with his politics, you can't fault that he has got an idea, he's got an ideology. He wishes that the UK was still in the EU. He sees that as a regret, whereas lots of people here might see that as a success. At least he's got some sort of politics, whereas the criticism of our Prime Minister is that he's got no politics or no direction or leadership at all.
Somebody I think it was Madeleine Grant in The Spectator, call them two lame duck centrists. Obviously, both Starmer and Macron seem to have lost control over the direction of their governments. But what's the future for Anglo-French relations? I mean, they are our closest neighbours. We've had our ups and downs with them in the past. But really, we can't solve this crisis without their cooperation, without their agreement. Do you think French law is going to have to change in order to allow them to be more proactive in stopping the boats?
Well, I think they should just start by upholding their end of the bargain. If we pay millions of pounds to France for them to patrol the borders on their side of Calais before boats even come across to Dover, then they should do that. We saw a clip, I think, just before this state visit of police going to slash one of those inflatable dinghies. It wasn't lost on me that just happened to be before this whole state visit took place as a demonstration that the French might be doing something. Let's hope there is an agreement on Thursday. Let's be positive about it. Let's hope that those relations can be repaired, where particularly Macron and people in France and people in the EU might still feel very upset about Brexit. So let's hope that we can have that repaired relationship.
I was upset about the King's right eye being bloodshot. Did we ever find out what happened?
No, I heard that reported. but-
I'm looking at you and you have absolutely no concern about His Majesty's bloodshot eye.
He's only listening to his words.
I'm looking and I'm thinking, how does he talk? How does he do? He must have thought, oh, I don't want to come into work today, but he's had to.
Well, if there's anyone who is the consummate professional and above politics, it's the King. And if anyone has a bloodshot eye in public life, look to him as the leader of this great nation.
I was wondering, Charlie, when him and Macron are speaking, and there's a lot of asides going on there, I wonder, is that in French or English?
That's a good question. Because he can speak French.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. He's very fluent. Who knows? I mean, there were some questions yesterday as well about the diplomacy and the right approach to the what's the word? The protocol about standing in front of the monarch.
Yes,
so Donald Trump got criticised for just sort of. Remember, he sort of edged in front of the Queen when he was doing a sort of state visit, and
I mean, these secular republics that have no regard for our tradition. I mean, how's he supposed to know the protocol? He did make quite a funny joke in the speech, and he said something like, "We love monarchies, but not at home."
Yes.
He did crack a few jokes. It's quite impressive.
But Charlie, all in all, what do you think when we come to the end of this 3-day trip? Do you think it actually achieves anything?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, I suppose. It's got to, I think, because I know that I just feel there is this appetite out there. There's this tension between the UK and French because of that connection and because of the money that goes to France and because they haven't been able to stop the boats so far, it seems to me. I think people just need to see those results, and then I think relations will flourish. But until that time, I think it would be a bit of a slap in the face if you come over to the UK, if you have a great state banquet, if you have a great state visit, and then still the problem isn't fixed. I think people will think, well, what a waste of time that was.
And there are strong parallels between the situation in Britain and France. Macron might not care too much about illegal immigration. Starmer might not have so many hot ideas about how to fix the problem. But nevertheless, both populations are fed up with very high levels of immigration. And actually, the French have an even worse problem with integration than we do. Macron's worried that Marine Le Pen will win the next election. He can't stand again. So you would think he would have this at the back of his mind, not only when he's in Britain, but in France as well, in terms of how on earth they're going to tackle their migration problem.
Yeah, I think that's right. And if you are so in love with the EU project, as Macron and as France tends to be, you don't want to see that shift to the right. You don't want to see that shift to Le Pen. So you've got to be seen to be the one dealing with it and not allowing your opponent on the right to park their tanks on your lawn. So we'll just have to see how the next day or two goes.
Well, Charlie Riley, we'll say au revoir to you, and you're going to be back after 7 o'clock with more comment on the state visit. If you've got anything to add, remember, have your say. That's what it's all about. What do you think? Will anything change as a result of this? Well, has your opinion changed already or not? Let us know. Have your say.
Well, on Saturday, GB News will be covering the annual 12th of July celebrations from Northern Ireland to commemorate the Battle of the Boyne.
It's now marked worldwide for its impact on everyday life, apparently. Our Northern Ireland reporter, Dougie Beattie, has the story.
The UK is a place we all take for granted. We enjoy its religious freedoms and democratic institutions, but these were all fought for, especially in the late 15 and 1600s. In 1588, Elizabeth I smashed the Spanish Armada and put down a rebellion of the Irish Earls that bankrupted Ulster's economy. In 1603, James VI of Scotland unites the crowns and becomes James I. He plants the Presbyterians from Scotland into Ulster to refloat an Irish economy. Charles I reopens the religious question, and from the conflict that follows would see not only his death, but Britain become a republic under Oliver Cromwell. 1660, Charles II restores the monarchy, but punishes nonconformists. In 1685, James II is a tyrannical monarch. He's a strong ally of Louis of France. He raises an Irish army to challenge revolution, but his 3-year reign would come to an end by his daughter Mary and her husband William. They become the first constitutional and only joint monarchy. They introduce the Bill of Rights, the Bank of England, and hand more powers to Parliament.
The Glorious Revolution really is the most pivotal moment in our history within the British Isles. It creates a new constitutional settlement, and it has many layers to it as part of a wider European conflict to the balance of power of Europe. It's part of a civil war, essentially, for the throne here in the British Isles, and it's also hides a number of family disputes.
The 12th of July is still celebrated across the world because many countries adopted the Bill of Rights from 1688. And after the revolution, many more left the UK and headed for America.
Well, let's have a look at some of the other stories coming to the newsroom this morning. A public inquiry has found the Horizon IT scandal had disastrous consequences that possibly contributed to at least 13 suicides. The report accuses post office bosses of ignoring software faults while innocent staff were prosecuted. Meanwhile, victims and families are now set to receive compensation as the post office issues an unreserved apology.
While President Macron spends the week in London, the south of France is battling severe wildfires that have forced the closure of Marseille Airport. 200 firefighters supported by helicopters and fire engines are working to contain the blaze. Authorities have urged residents to stay indoors.
And Gregg Wallace has been sacked as the presenter of MasterChef after an independent inquiry into allegations of serious misconduct. The decision comes as 50 new claims emerge, including accusations that Wallace groped colleagues and exposed himself to junior staff. He denies the allegations, though admitted some of his past comments had been inappropriate.
Well, it was a lovely day yesterday. I think it's going to be more of the same today. But anyway, Alex Deacon will tell you.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Temperatures on the rise over the next few days. Pleasantly warm for most today, with many places seeing sunny spells, but not everywhere. There's a bit more cloud around today across England and Wales, and that cloud is thick enough for a bit of drizzly rain over Cumbria and certainly the west coast of Scotland, susceptible to a bit of light rain and drizzle this morning. That'll tend to ease off, except maybe over the Highlands and the Northern Isles, where we'll keep some outbreaks of rain and drizzle into the afternoon. For most places, though, it is going to be dry. As I say, a bit more cloud around compared to yesterday, but still some good spells of sunshine and temperatures just starting to tick up. So most of us into the low 20s by this afternoon. As we go through this evening, not a great deal of change. A fine summer's evening across the south with temperatures still over 20 degrees well into the evening. As I said, a bit more cloud bubbling up. There's the very small chance of seeing a shower over South Wales and South West England. I think we'll see brighter skies by the end of the day across Northern Ireland. Quite a bit of cloud across Scotland. But here too, as that rain pulls away, we should see some sunny spells coming out across northern Scotland by the end of the evening time. The wind's fairly light, except for a bit of a breeze blowing in the far northwest. That'll continue overnight. Elsewhere, we've still got light winds, so could just turn a little misty in places, particularly around some coasts. And still the cloud thickening for a bit of drizzle on the west coast of Scotland. Temperatures holding up in the teens. In London, we may not dip below 16 degrees Celsius. And Thursday will be a warmer day again. Temperatures just a little bit higher by tomorrow. Any early mist will clear away. Some coasts, the east coast of Northern Ireland, west coast of Wales and the east coast of England could be a little misty. There'll again be some patchy rain over the Northern Isles and the Western Isles and perhaps at times into the far north of the mainland of Scotland. But most of us looking sunny tomorrow and those temperatures ticking up. Tomorrow won't be the last day we see 30 degrees.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
At Wimbledon, it's the end of the road for Cameron Norrie as he crashes out to the back-to-back champion Carlos Alcaraz.
Aidan will be here with all of that sport next. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Miriam.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very nice to see you again on this Wednesday morning. We've got Aidan in now to reflect on the sport and Wimbledon yesterday. And, you know, I'm laughing at this. I shouldn't really be laughing. But the chief executive of Wimbledon comes out 2 days ago and says, there can never be another fault with AI. We have this completely sorted. This will not malfunction again. And then...
What a farce. It did. That's exactly what happened. It gave up yesterday. Now, Taylor Fritz... Crucial game right at the front of the fourth set. He's winning by 2-1, but he's not in good form. He's one of the fans. He's the favourite, and he goes to serve, and they can't explain why it was given out. Well, it wasn't given out. It was noticed to be out, but the AI system didn't kick in. To be fair to the Swedish umpire, this is the farcical part. She had to make a phone call. She had to make a phone call from the chair.
She have a
to find out
landline.
what's gone wrong, and then she said, "Oh, there's been a malfunction with the AI system." And, you know, at least she was able to correct the problem. The German umpire the other day didn't even do that. I mean, they just replayed the point, and they replayed the point again yesterday, but goodness me, I mean, a day, 24 hours after you've released that statement saying it cannot go wrong again.
It goes wrong.
They can't blame someone in the back office this time. This is purely a malfunction over the system. Now,
they're blaming the ball boy, apparently.
Are they?
Yes, he wasn't back in place when the serve started, and therefore the system hadn't switched itself on.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know. It's ridiculous, isn't it? But you know what? Fritz afterwards said there were going to be problems with this early on, but he thinks that long term it'll be a good thing. But that view isn't shared by Emma Raducanu, who earlier in the week called it dodgy. And obviously there was the Pavlyuchenkova wasn't happy either when it kind of surrendered 3 points that she had at a crucial stage of her match against Sonny Cartel. So some ironing out to do. Look, we assume it will get better, but we thought that about VAR back in 2019 when it came to football, and it hadn't.
And here's the thing. We don't need AI at Wimbledon. There wasn't anything wrong with the previous system. It's part of the whole tradition.
I agree.
The judges and everything were there. We don't need it. What are we adding that to the game for?
Well, you've also got challenges as well. If a player isn't happy with a call, then he or she can say, well, I'm going to challenge that. I always said that was something that should be in other sports. The captain of each team should say you've got 2 challenges per game. There is the worry that you might use it to time waste, of course. But in tennis, since it came into being in 2007-8, it's been very successful. And, I mean, OK, players usually sometimes use it to get a bit more time to recover from an injury, but generally speaking, it hasn't spoiled the spectacle. And it's a little bit like technology. Once it comes into the game, it can be quite good. We saw with goal line technology, it's been very effective, apart from that one game with Sheffield United in 2020. But overall, it's been pretty good. But once you open the floodgates, you then move on to other stuff. There are people in the game who can't stop tampering with the sport, and I think it's a shame that the line judges are no longer present, because to me they're part of the paraphernalia of Wimbledon.
And I was reading yesterday about the number of new people behind the scenes that need to control this AI, check this AI, and it didn't seem to me like they've actually saved any jobs. Not that that was necessarily the reason behind it, but one player whose name, unfortunately, I can't remember, was saying that he likes the new system because he doesn't like having to consider whether or not to challenge calls between points, and that he can switch off from that because of the AI. But whether that is a representative of...
Well, that's fine. That's fine until it malfunctions, as it did yesterday. You know what? When VAR came into football in 2019, I was taken to Stockley Park as a reporter, and I was shown how it worked. And you know what? I was struck by the fact that there was no newfangled technology there. These were old, decrepit systems, just PCs and video technology. It was people there operating the clips who weren't even football people, weren't even football fans, who were just replaying clips. So it was not, the technology could have been done 30 or 40 years earlier, quite easily. And I thought to myself, if they make it's all very well in the summer when it's all relaxed and there's nothing riding on it, you can make decisions. But when you've got 60,000 people in the stadium a few miles away, you can be in deep trouble.
And they were.
Yeah.
I'll tell you somebody's not in big trouble. Carlos Alcaraz, what a player.
Absolutely, yeah. He's going for a 3rd successive Wimbledon. Cam Norrie, I mean, had to feel for him in a way. He's had a brilliant tournament so far. He's really lifted himself up from a low point just a couple of months ago, but he was just blasted off court yesterday. Alcaraz was not messing around Miriam. He's conceded a few sets earlier in the tournament. Yeah. That's not a bad thing because, you know, you get a bit of a workout. Sometimes you get players who get to the semi-finals without dropping a set and they haven't been really put through the mill. But I wouldn't say that he was not put through the mill yesterday by Cameron Norrie. He didn't play badly, but he was just, unfortunately, outclassed. And no wonder Norrie said afterwards he's unreal, because I think it's difficult, given that Sinner, his main rival, has a bit of an elbow problem and he's in action today, and it's a quite tough match against Boccoli, the Italian guy. I think that it's difficult to see past Alcaraz right now, but in that form, he's going to go and win this for the 3rd time in a row.
Wow, well, we shall see. Aidan, we'll have you back in an hour or so. But there's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, an incredible £54,321.
And it could go to you.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win win £54,321 cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome back. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Miriam, and it's now time for our daily reflection.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hi, my name's Jordan, and I'm a vicar in the Church of England. This week, we are journeying through the story of the prodigal son, Jesus tells us in Luke 15. The son has just returned to his father after asking for his inheritance early and squandering it all. The son expects to be rejected and might possibly be his servant, but the father embraces him again. Interestingly, in the story, Jesus tells us the father gives his son 3 new things to restore him: a robe, a ring, and some shoes. The father gives him the best robe, which undoubtedly would have been his robe. The father restores his son's identity by covering the tattered mess with his finery. The father gives a ring, the family signet ring, which restores the son's authority to order his father's affairs on his behalf. And finally, he gives him new shoes to replace the ragged ones, which restores the son's dignity. I'm always blown away by the father's response in this story. It inspires me not only to forgive people who've hurt me, but to try and find some way to restore them as safely and as best I can.
Something to reflect on there, something now to be warned of and look ahead to as you wake up into this Wednesday. What's the traffic like out there? Let's have a look.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A75 is closed in both directions at Creetown due to a significant road traffic collision, causing major delays in the area. Motorists are advised to follow available diversion routes and allocate extra time for their journey. In another incident, the M4 westbound is closed from junction 24 at Caldra to junction 28 at Tredegar Park for essential planned maintenance, with diversions clearly marked to guide traffic smoothly. Additionally, on the railways, Hull Trains has a reduced service operating today, affecting several schedules. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Well, still to come, we'll be going through the papers with Christo Fufas and Claire Muldoon. There they are, look bright and early, ready to start. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Miriam.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, we're delighted now to go through the newspapers in the company of Claire Muldoon and Christoph Fufas. Very good morning to you two. Claire, so here we have Emmanuel Macron, state visit, and he's made it clear, look, Keir Starmer, Britain is just too attractive for migrants. That's why they're coming here. That's why they want to come here.
Yeah, well, these migrants have been coming over since before Keir Starmer got into power, really, haven't they? And, you know, reports from last year and indeed years before hailed Britain as some El Dorado, some, you know, place of milk and honey that people can go to. That came from France themselves and indeed every other European country. They were like, go to Britain, you can go. Is great there. You'll be well looked after. That's the message. So for Macron now to turn round and blame a leader that's only been in governance for a year, I think is a bit foolhardy and a bit wry.
Whereas I disagree with you. I mean, you have the Rwanda thing all ready to go and Labour does away with it. Rwanda would have made it less attractive for a lot of these people to come here.
There is a lot that is attractive about Britain, and the problem is that it sticks in your craw that Macron is actually making this point. If anyone else was making it, we'd probably say, well, actually, we agree because of our benefit system, because we are such a tolerant country, to the point, actually, where I think that we do a lot of nasal gazing and we drive ourselves mad by accusing ourselves of racism and everything else all the time, because we are a country that is welcoming. We are a nice country. So I actually get the point that he's making. Also, what they do in France, which we don't do here, is we don't actually publish statistics of how many people who come over have recourse to public funds. In France, they actually know those numbers. And so there is the perception, isn't there, that we give people a lot of money. What I don't like is that it's Macron making this point, because I could, on that part, I agree with you. He's the one whose border force, if that's the appropriate term for them, have taken millions from us, waved people off.
770 million.
It was unbelievable. Like last week, we got that performative photo, didn't we, of the inflatable dinghy finally being burst after they changed the law and they're allowed to do it while the migrants are in the water. And so then you have the audacity to tell us that, oh, well, your country's too attractive. Well, what have you been doing?
Well, I want to mention two things here. One, Yvette Cooper. I think this whole one in, one out, I would rather there was none in, all out, to be honest with you. I think her reasoning behind this is to break the business model, which would be great if it blooming well worked. But they need to take the optic off France for that and go to places like Albania for that.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, I do think we have an optic in terms of getting numbers here, Crystal, because you can't claim benefits, if I'm quite right, unless you've got a national insurance number. They know the amount of people on the list of trying to get British naturalisation that are being put up in hotels, that do get £50 a week, that money to live off, and they do get advanced free care and dental care. So I think we do have those numbers.
Well, but we don't have the numbers of people who are here illegally and undetected, either because they've gone AWOL from the asylum system or they've overstayed their visas. And yet this is well known about because of social media, because of TikTok. People across the world know how to get to Britain, how to get a job while you're here and how not to be detected. And that's where he's
and how then to deliver people's food when they go on apps for food.
And I think that whether Rwanda was the right one of these, I don't know. But I do believe we need some blue sky thinking on this. It needs to have a third country. It needs to have an offshore processing centre. It's not working, people getting here and needing to be processed on this shore.
Right, Crystal, let's move on. There was a damning inquiry report published yesterday into the Post Office Horizon scandal, and this annoys me. And any party, Conservatives, Labour, they both have a hand in this. Why is nothing being done about this? Why are these people not being compensated?
Well, this is now, it looks like, from this inquiry, which has been absolutely damning, by the way, saying that the Post Office has blood on its hands. It does. After at least 13 people were driven to suicide. It's made many of the newspapers this morning. And the outright, I mean, let's just call them what they were. I mean, it's not often that you say in media lies, but it was lies, saying, you know, this system, this Horizon system is absolutely fine, it's robust, and these poor people, many of whom were bankrupted, committed suicide. So this inquiry has now, looks like it's opened the door at last that people can start getting compensated. Around 1,000 branch managers, just to remind you, were prosecuted. 236 went to jail. Thousands more were wrongly accused, had their lives, their reputations absolutely ruined. And,
yeah, but look, listen. You can look and you can say, Christo, he had a post office in Peterborough, whatever. Christo, we owe you 80 grand. We accused you of stealing 80 grand. We owe you 80 grand and we stuck you in prison for 6 months or whatever it is, so you need that compensation. What is the problem?
Yeah, I agree with that. Or what they do, you know, when there has been a big accident or something like that, they give everyone an initial payment, don't they? They say, right, we'll give you sort of 50 grand to be going on with because we know that there was a problem, and then we'll balance it out once the inquiry is done. What we do in this country, and we seem to take so long to do absolutely everything and to do the right thing. And what we also seem to do is we see the drama and we say, right, okay, phew, it's going to be sorted now. You know, remember the grooming gangs drama? 4 girls, you know, or 3 girls a few years ago were all won loads of BAFTAs, and we all say, oh, brilliant, it's been on television now something's going to happen. But no, we wait for these endless inquiries, and then hopefully it gets sorted. I hope that this is it now, and that people are actually given money.
The government hasn't even devised the programme of how to compensate, so it isn't it. And of course, the Post Office and Fujitsu, who were in charge of the IT system, have also got to work out what they're going to do to redress. So we are a long way from anybody.
I think Horizon should be done for corporate manslaughter, and Horizon systems are still being used by private companies that run private arms of the NHS. We need to kick Horizon into touch.
And politicians, along with Horizon and the Post Office, should hang their heads in shame. Absolutely, right is right and wrong is wrong, and this is wrong. We're going to be back talking about more stories in the papers, and goodness me, there is a lot of them, including 50 new allegations against Gregg, Wallace, the MasterChef host, and the BBC are saying, right, that's it, we're washing our hands of you. What do you think about that after this?
But first of all, we need to read this right of reply from the Post Office. A spokesperson said, the inquiry has brought to life the devastating stories of those impacted by the Horizon scandal. Their experiences represent a shameful period in our history. Today, we apologise unreservedly for the suffering which Post Office caused to postmasters and their loved ones. We will carefully consider the report and its recommendations.
Bye-bye.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Largely sunny skies across the Mediterranean. It is a little bit breezy in parts of Greece and Turkey over the next couple of days, but still lots of blue sky to be had here. Small chance of a shower in Croatia, but mostly they're staying away to the north and east. Small chance of a shower across Catalonia as well, but most of Spain dry and sunny. Bit of an onshore breeze bringing some cloud to the coasts of Portugal, and fine and sunny in the Canaries. Continued risk of a shower too in Barcelona into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Poll, it doesn't surprise either Bev or I, shows that most Brits believe that Britain is in decline. 76% of us, though, did surprise. We fear political unrest and even violence.
And those fears come amid violent riots, of course, in Ballymena in Northern Ireland. They've left dozens of police officers injured and the area largely destroyed in some cases, particularly the local leisure centre.
Let's talk to our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie. Doogie, this report comes on the back of sustained riots over, 6 days in the province?
They are putting undocumented immigrants into areas of high deprivation. There is a group here called Mears. 85% of their properties are in socially deprived areas, and those areas are now kicking back because in amongst those areas you have pensioners and so forth that have bought their houses back in the 80s. I spoke to a couple of them that were having to be moved out by their grandchildren.
We know that people are not happy with. I think first thing to say is that people are worried about their living standards. They think they've declined, and actually strikingly in a different part of the survey we found that 4 in 10 people feel like they were worse off since the COVID pandemic. That was actually particularly pronounced amongst reform voters, but overall people are very pessimistic about their personal finances and their cost of living. So I think that's a huge driver. We also know that people aren't happy with the government's handling of immigration, and actually going back to that question about what's affecting people's living standards, which I think is a much better way of getting at how people are feeling about things like the economy. People perceive, including Labour voters, including a sizable chunk of Labour voters, that immigration has had a negative impact on their living standards. And I do think we're starting to see that filter through into pessimism about the country as a whole.
GB News, the People's Channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Doogie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Just showing you some of the newspaper headlines featuring Gregg Wallace today, sacked, it says here, by the BBC. And Gregg, 50 new victims, the Star is reporting. That's a lot of accusations, Claire.
Huge amounts of accusations, and it's funny how they've all just started coming out from about this very arrogant greengrocer man who had a primetime slot on BBC TV, who was in our sitting rooms most nights on MasterChef, and here he is accused of groping or being sexually assaulting 50-odd women. This is enablement, this is awful, and I'm actually surprised he's actually been sacked now. I thought he was sacked at the very beginning when this all happened. But because, you know, the BBC have given him platforms, though, haven't they? They've given him Strictly. They've given him other things. And it's the people... he worked with John Turode. Would John Turode have known? I mean, there's this amount of people, this volume of women, surely someone should have known. And it comes to the state that I think he should just put up the white flag, as you said earlier, and just wave it and go, look, I'm leaving, I'm going.
Let's see what he has said in response to all of this. He said, Gregg continues to cooperate fully with the ongoing Banquet UK review and, as previously stated, denies engaging in behaviour of a sexually harassing nature. The BBC are saying Banquet UK instructed the law firm Lewis Silkin to run an investigation into allegations against Gregg Wallace. We are not going to comment until the investigation is complete and the findings are published. Well, you see, Christo, the thing is, where Claire's absolutely right. He was given other programmes, other how this is made and that is made. They made programmes. They invested in him. They don't want these programmes cancelled unnecessarily.
I'm not going to defend, obviously, Gregg Wallace, because these are horrific accusations and these are horrific ways of behaving. But what some companies do, the BBC being one of them, we've seen it in other companies, is that the enablement, but also the enablement of their persona, they hire people like him because, I'm going to say and do what I like. I'm going to be this bolshy guy. I'm going to say...
He'll say that's a medical condition.
Well, yeah.
He is. No, he is. He's saying that.
Well, that's why he's so outspoken.
He's saying he's got autism or ADHD or something, which is making him behave like this.
Well, I mean, I've never heard, potential groping being a symptom of that one. But, that's the enablement. So he would have probably thought, well, I'm getting away with this. I can continue to. And you're quite right. Then the BBC and other companies might say, great, we'll keep doing all of this. And that's what sticks in my craw a little bit, in as much as then there are a couple of accusations. They suddenly say, oh, well, actually, this is absolutely terrible. We're going to do a full investigation. We're going to get a law firm. And you think, well, how long did you know about it? And how long were you milking that cash cow? And I think we've seen it in other stars as well, where, obviously with no criminal implications, but we saw it with Philip Schofield, didn't we? That people knew what was going on. Everyone sort of knew. And then suddenly the very company turns around and says, well, actually, oh, my God, this is absolutely terrible. And we're not sure that we like this kind of behaviour. Again, I just want to make the point, there's no criminal side of what Philip Schofield was up to, but it's about this enablement, that these companies, that they enable this to happen, and then suddenly they go all pious and sort of whiter than white when people step forward.
It's not, we need to be realistic here. It's not just in TV companies or TV programmes we've got men, misogynists like this, running around. They're everywhere. OK? And the fact that it's BBC, the fact that it's public money, that will be the outcry. That is the difficulty here for me, that they have enabled, again, Gregg Wallace, as they did Jimmy Savile, as they did Rolf Harris, and a myriad of others, I'm sure.
Oh, they absolutely did. The reason that we all know that everyone knew about Jimmy Savile is because he was never near Children in Need. I mean, there was never... Children in Need, the biggest show, for the BBC every single year, where all of their talent was there, but Jimmy Savile was never near it. Why? Because everyone knew that you don't put Jimmy Savile on a show like that.
I worked with Jimmy Savile. I had no idea there was anything odd. I found him...
I don't think you were his target audience.
I found him a direct, rude sort of man. And he definitely had a forceful presence around him. All nice on the surface, but, behind that, he just did what Jimmy wanted to do type thing.
But isn't this a feature of just human nature and history, that powerful men throughout history have always been able to behave like this if they wanted to? Of course, not all do. And actually, the only way to prevent that, let's be honest, is strict checks and balances, a strong culture of accountability. And those are the only kinds of things that will stop certain, not all, powerful men from behaving like this. And as you said, culture in previous time has enabled rather than restricted that kind of behaviour.
But also we make people like this famous. We say, you're going to be famous.
Well, because
do what
the people who are
charismatic, they don't know at the time when they are giving him Strictly or giving him the...
Well, they gave him an MBE 3 years ago.
Wow.
So who knew what then? It's only 3 years ago.
Yeah, but everyone seems to go a bit blindfold and mute when it all comes out, doesn't it?
What he's saying, though, and obviously this is his word, is that the more serious allegations have been disproved and that the other things were mistakes. Well, we'll see.
Right. OK, we'll be back again with the guys in 40 minutes' time. Right now, here's the weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Temperatures on the rise over the next few days. Pleasantly warm for most today, with many places seeing sunny spells, but not everywhere. There's a bit more cloud around today across England and Wales, and that cloud is thick enough for a bit of drizzly rain over Cumbria and certainly the west coast of Scotland, susceptible to a bit of light rain and drizzle this morning. That'll tend to ease off, except maybe over the Highlands and the Northern Isles, where we'll keep some outbreaks of rain and drizzle into the afternoon. For most places, though, it is going to be dry. As I say, a bit more cloud around compared to yesterday, but still some good spells of sunshine, and temperatures just starting to tick up. So most of us into the low 20s by this afternoon. As we go through this evening, not a great deal of change. A fine summer's evening across the south, with temperatures still over 20 degrees well into the evening. As I said, a bit more cloud bubbling up. There's the very small chance of seeing a shower over South Wales and southwest England. I think we'll see brighter skies by the end of the day across Northern Ireland. Quite a bit of cloud across Scotland, but here too, as that rain pulls away, we should see some sunny spells coming out across northern Scotland by the end of the evening time. The wind's fairly light, except for a bit of a breeze blowing in the far northwest. That'll continue overnight. Elsewhere, we've still got light winds, so could just turn a little misty in places, particularly around some coasts. And still the cloud thickening for a bit of drizzle on the west coast of Scotland. Temperatures holding up in the teens. In London, we may not dip below 16 degrees Celsius. And Thursday will be a warmer day again. Temperatures just a little bit higher by tomorrow. Any early mist will clear away. Some coasts, the east coast of Northern Ireland, west coast of Wales and the east coast of England, could be a little misty. There'll again be some patchy rain over the Northern Isles and the Western Isles, and perhaps at times into the far north of the mainland of Scotland. But most of us looking sunny tomorrow, and those temperatures ticking up. Tomorrow won't be the last day we see 30 degrees.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A75 is closed at Creetown due to a road traffic collision. Motorists should follow diversion routes and plan for extra travel time. The M4 westbound from Junction 24 Coldra to Junction 28 Tredegar Park is closed due to roadworks, with diversions in place. The A1 southbound in Bedford is experiencing congestion between junctions with the A428 and the A421. In Kent, the M20 westbound exit slip at junction 10A has a 10-minute delay due to congestion. And on the trains, Hull Trains has a reduced service and Southern services are disrupted to and from Eastbourne. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Emmanuel Macron has blamed Sir Keir Starmer for the migrant crisis.
Well, the French president is pressurising the Prime Minister to make Britain less attractive to channel migrants, urging tougher rules on jobs to deter crossings.
Well, as President Macron's state visit enters its second day, will all the pomp and pageantry be enough to strengthen the Anglo-French relationship?
A night of royal sparkle and entente cordiale. The King welcomed President Macron to a state banquet, taking the opportunity to highlight some of the challenges the countries face.
Our security services and police will go further still to protect us against the profound challenges of terrorism, organised crime, cyber attacks, and, of course, irregular migration across the English Channel.
The state's visit continues here in Windsor after a magnificent state banquet last night. This morning, the President and the First Lady will pay their respects at the tomb of Queen Elizabeth II. More details shortly.
A public inquiry finds the Horizon post office scandal drove at least 13 people to suicide, with a 160-page report laying bare the full scale of the horror.
The infected blood report exposes the devastating impact of compensation delays and what's been called the NHS's worst ever treatment disaster.
With the Office for Budget Responsibility sounding the alarm on fragile public finances, we're asking whether Labour has lost its grip on the economy.
12th of July celebrations are set to take place across Northern Ireland over the weekend. We'll be looking ahead to see what is in store.
Good morning. Parliament has voted to establish an independent football regulator, but opted against an amendment to make 10 Premier League matches available on free-to-air channels. And with 5 weeks to go until the start of the season, could Jamie Vardy be on his way to Old Trafford? We'll have more later this hour.
A little more cloud around today, but for most a day of sunny spells. A little warmer than yesterday, but it is going to get hotter as the week progresses. Join me later for a full forecast.
It's a Wednesday morning. A very good morning to you. However you're watching, wherever you're listening, welcome to the show. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Miriam Cates, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Just looking at our headlines there and your sports headlines, Aidan, and this idea that MPs are putting a bill together and they've adopted a regulator, they've voted to adopt that. But why not the 10 free league games to be free-to-air broadcast?
Well, we spoke about it yesterday and we thought it's a no-brainer. It's popular, people will like it. But for some reason, it was defeated quite resoundingly last night in Parliament. Now, I can only think that there's some horse trading going on between the Premier League, who, by the way, declined to comment about this a couple of days ago when asked, which was quite surprising. The Premier League normally comment on everything, but they didn't on this. And I can only think that the Premier League are terrified of the regulator. They are absolutely petrified. That's the whole reason they took Manchester City to court. Look at us. We can get our house in order.
We can self-police.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. We're not afraid of one of the biggest clubs in the Premier League. We can bring them to task. That hasn't happened either. I mean, we were told we would get a resolution of that early this year. We're now in the middle of the year, no sign of it happening. Nonetheless, I can only imagine that with the clubs could lose money over those 10 matches. If you're saying to the 20 clubs who'd be involved in those matches that you're going to lose £5 million a season, they're not going to vote for that. I imagine that they would have done a deal with the Labour government which said, look, OK, we'll accept that. We'll accept that the regulators can have more teeth than we want it to have, but please don't take those games away from us because there are some clubs in the league who can't afford
to relinquish £5 million. You might be right, but that's not how MPs vote. I mean, this is how MPs have chosen to vote. They may be aware there may be some horse trading, but I imagine that it's just nervousness about over-regulation. And of course, it sounds popular.
A Labour government's frightened of regulation, and they normally love it. Can you think of many regulators?
Potentially.
Can you think of many regulators in this country or anywhere in public life that have been successful?
No,
I can't
exactly.
think of
The
one.
whole thing's a daft idea, as far as I'm concerned. As much as I think personally, the Premier League has far too much money and. They're a business, and if people want to buy what they're selling, they will.
Lots of industries have loads of money.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you know what? For all the money that players earn, I still see them go skint within 5 years of finishing. You see them go skint, run out of money, bankrupt, bad tax advice. A divorce.
Yeah. But even the clubs, I mean, you could say, well, football is awash with money, can afford this. But you look like a club like Manchester United now, for instance.
Yes.
They need every penny from every game.
They do. Who would have said that 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah.
You know, Sir Jim Ratcliffe from Ineos, who took over 25% of the club just over a year ago. He said that the club last December was on the verge of running out of money. Man United was virtually the Bank of England. In this country. They were the cash cow of the Premier League, of European world football, and yet they run out of money. So it only takes
fortunes can change.
A bit of bad housekeeping can land you in. Well, you know, there's been plenty of that. Look at the signings they've made in the last since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. When I was covering Man United, Eamonn, everyone up there said when Fergie leaves, that'll be the end of Man United. I said no, that can't be right because they've got the infrastructure there. Well, take one bloke out, it's not going to make a difference. They did not realise how invaluable he was. I'd have been doing everything to make him stay for another couple of years.
Yeah. OK, thank you very much indeed for that. That's Aidan having to say. You can have your say as well. Get in touch with us this morning. Top story is...
The French President, Emmanuel Macron, who will point the finger at Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, blaming Britain for the soaring number of migrants crossing the Channel.
So Macron is demanding tough action to make Britain less attractive for illegal arrivals, including a crackdown on black market jobs.
Macron is expected to announce a new agreement with the Prime Minister on Thursday, despite branding Brexit regrettable.
He went on to highlight concerns French and British societies are growing apart.
Since the last time a French president spoke before you in 2008, Europe has changed. First of all, of course, because the sovereign British people choose to leave the European Union in 2016, a decision that we respect, even if we found it deeply regrettable. And today there is a risk that our societies are growing apart, that our young people do not know each other as well and may end up strangers. At a time when international current events remind us on a daily basis of our common future. Let's fix it.
Well, let's get comment on all of this. Former political advisor Charlie Riley on that this morning. How do you make of how this is going and what we're looking to get from this state visit?
Well, you hope on the back of it that there's going to be something of a concrete deal to make sure that actually the French potentially uphold their bargain a bit more than what they seem to have already done when UK taxpayers have spent millions of pounds trying to help the French police their borders to stop those dinghies coming over that we see weekend after weekend. And with the weather only getting warmer this weekend, we've got a heat wave coming. That's only going to be even more of a pull factor, I think, for people to come and make that perilous crossing. So let's hope there's some sort of deal where the French can uphold their end of the bargain.
Do you think the one-in, one-out deal is being trailed has got any legs? Because even if it was a good potential deal, and I'm not quite sure how it would be the deterrent that it's supposed to be, the French are not free bilaterally to agree that with us because of their membership of the EU, and I just can't imagine the other EU 27 agreeing to this.
No, well, I think it's probably a good deal in Sir Keir Starmer's eyes, but then, you know, signing away the Chagos Islands was a good deal. And you know, taking away winter fuel payments was a good deal for UK taxpayers. I mean, so I don't think it is, but...
No, and you look at it and you think, what are you talking about? Somebody who's committed a crime, somebody who's got bonus points, somebody... It is so slow, a one-for-one... What are you going to talk about? 50 people involved in all of this, and is it worthwhile?
I think you're absolutely right. We can't even process people that come into this country illegally anyway to try and deal with them. So how on earth are we going to be able to process people that we're deporting and taking as that one-for-one sort of switch.
Unless you're dealing in tens of thousands of people involved in this, but we're not.
No, you're right. And it's the thousands of people that come into this country illegally that just needs to be stopped. And I think it's a bit rich, I do, from the French to say, well, you know, it's all the Prime Minister's fault. I mean, the French president, I think, will say anything just to talk down the UK on the back of Brexit.
I don't think he blamed the Prime Minister. I think he blamed Britain more generally and the conditions that have been allowed to flourish that have pulled the small boats across. We mustn't forget, of course, that this is a relatively new problem. There were no crossings on this route before 2018. We got very good at cracking down on lorry migration, people stowing away in the back of lorries, and as a result, the business model changed and they started crossing the channel. So this isn't, although the small boats is a new problem, the problem of illegal immigration is not a new one, and there are long-standing reasons why people try to get here.
Well, quite right. I mean, and I can't help but think, you know, if we go back to 2016, you know, had the European Union agreed to what was not the best deal that David Cameron seemed to secure, but there was an element of migration which, you know, the Germans actually, Angela Merkel, vetoed, which meant that the deal that David Cameron brought back wasn't actually all that appetising. But had there been some movement on the EU side about free movement within the EU, then who knows what might have happened. But the fact that the EU sort of, you know, waved their arms away and sort of said, no, it's not really an issue, or no, we're not sort of going to deal with the UK independently. We're not going to allow the UK to opt out of that freedom of movement, or things that are, you know, key and core values to the EU, means that there's been a problem ever since.
I think fundamentally the problem is the French aren't going to sort this out because it's not in their interests. Why would they want to stop illegal immigrants leaving France and all the problems that they cause there and coming to the UK? It's never going to be in the French domestic interest to help us very much, doing other than a few performative boat slashings, as they've been doing. So we're going to have to sort this out ourselves, because at the end of the day, no French president who wants to win an election is going to spend much time on this.
I think that's right, and I think a lot of people sympathise with that. So we've got to do something, you know, let's see how the next couple of days play out. They had a lovely meal last night, by the looks of things. It was all very well-to-do.
I wonder what he thought of the food.
Well, yes. Who knows? I don't even know what was on the menu. But
snails and frogs. No.
Oh, right. Oh, right.
No, I'm joking. I doubt it. I wouldn't eat British snails.
I'll pass. They need a good fry-up, but a good British fry-up this morning. That'll put it right.
Would you see any difference, Charlie, in the way that Macron is being treated, is being lauded, as opposed to when Trump arrives, probably in September? What would you see as the differences there?
Well, that's a brilliant question, because I think, you know, we are very close to, obviously, both countries. We have to be. And we have to be. You're absolutely right. I think Trump is obviously in a league of his own when it comes to his own diplomacy and his own diplomatic strategy and his own economic strategy, and has a huge impact across the entire world. France doesn't quite have that heavyweight leader, but, you know, I think there'll be people who are delighted that Donald Trump's here. There'll be people that are absolutely beside themselves and want to protest things.
Well, one of our viewers, Janice, says, will Trump be allowed to address Parliament? I doubt it, because they can't stand criticism and truth. I think MPs will try to block it.
Well, I'd quite welcome it. I mean, it'd be something to watch, wouldn't it? It'd be quite exciting, I think. I'll be the
What would
popcorn.
he say? He would also love the pageantry and the beauty of Parliament, I think. He'd enjoy the experience like Macron has.
Yes, I mean, and for all the... Look, I mean, it's very easy by their own... The mistakes that they're making to attack the Labour government. It's very easy to attack Keir Starmer, because I think they're making so many domestic decisions that are bad. But there is something to be said about Sir Keir Starmer. If he seems to get on with President Macron, they have a close relationship, and Donald Trump seems to like him as well. So there's obviously something that Keir Starmer's might got that we haven't seen.
And just in response to the front page of the Daily Telegraph, which says that Macron is blaming Starmer, Macron to blame Prime Minister for small boats crisis is the headline. The senior Elysée source is saying what, Miriam?
The French president looks forward to working with the Prime Minister constructively on this shared priority.
OK. Charlie, thank you very much indeed. Very good seeing you. Right, OK.
Well, the King hosted the French president last night for the state banquet at Windsor Castle. And in a speech, King Charles declared that Britain and France would not be friends without their differences, before sharing his concerns over irregular, as he called it, migration.
Today, our two countries face a multitude of more complex threats, emanating from multiple directions. As friends and as allies, we face them together. Of course, we would not be neighbours if we did not have our differences. Our security services and police will go further still to protect us against the profound challenges of terrorism, organised crime, cyber attacks, and, of course, irregular migration across the English Channel.
That was the King last night. Let's go to our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, today. And he is live from outside Windsor Castle. Cameron, good morning.
Good morning, Eamonn. Today I'm outside Windsor Castle. Last night I was inside Windsor Castle, getting a very little sneak peek of St George's Hall, the biggest room in the castle, where a 50-metre table, as you just saw on your screens there, if you're watching on television, was laid out with the gilt service, with the gold and silverware. 160-odd guests, including Elton John and Mick Jagger, were in attendance, and of course we had all the sparkles from members of the royal family, including the Princess of Wales, wearing the lover's knot tiara made famous by Diana, Princess of Wales. The Queen as well, wearing a sapphire and diamonds tiara too, because this is the pomp and pageantry, isn't it? This is designed really to strengthen the relationship, for the soft power of the royal family, and strengthen the relationship between the United Kingdom and France. And of course the whole state banquet was in honour of President Macron, and the themes of both speeches, both the King's and the President's, was very much on that, basically strengthening the relationship and talking about the shared 1,000-year history of the two nations. And if you want to know what was on the menu, I heard you discussing it with Charlie just now. I can tell you exactly what was on the menu. Of course, you can expect for champagne to flow. 6 glasses each guest had, 2 for wine, 1 for champagne toasting and 1 for water. I think there was another one as well. But we had a selection of tender summer vegetables from a local garden: sage, raw tomato, extra virgin olive oil dressing. But next course we had supreme of Rug Estates chicken with Norfolk asparagus and tarragon cream, followed by iced blackcurrant parfait on a blackcurrant soaked sponge with elderflower jelly for dessert. And guess who designed some of the menu? It was none other than the French chef and King Charles's friend and King's Foundation ambassador, Raymond Blanc. He was actually in the kitchen last night inside Windsor Castle, one of the oldest kitchens in the country, dating back to before the time of Henry VIII, but I'm sure the ovens and all the utensils have been updated since that time. Today, the President and Mrs Macron will be going privately to the grave of Queen Elizabeth II in St George's Chapel, which is just beyond the gate behind me, to pay their respects. Following that, the King and President Macron will take a walk around the Windsor Castle gardens before viewing a carriage gifted to Queen Victoria by King Louis Philippe of France. The King will also introduce President Macron to a horse he gifted Queen Elizabeth II back in 2022 to mark her Platinum Jubilee. And then all the pomp and pageantry and the royal stuff is basically over, because then President Macron will travel to Downing Street to meet the Prime Minister.
Wow, looks absolutely wonderful. And that menu's making me a little bit hungry. I've not had breakfast yet. I'm not sure about asparagus for breakfast, but, you know, I'd eat anything right now.
Thanks, Cameron. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. And as you can see from Windsor, and Camera in his summer clothing there. It's time now for your weather, which looks like a good one for the next few days. Here's Alex Deacon.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Temperatures on the rise over the next few days. Pleasantly warm for most today, with many places seeing sunny spells, but not everywhere. There's a bit more cloud around today across England and Wales, and that cloud is thick enough for a bit of drizzly rain over Cumbria and certainly the west coast of Scotland, susceptible to a bit of light rain and drizzle this morning. That'll tend to ease off, except maybe over the Highlands and the Northern Isles, where we'll keep some outbreaks of rain and drizzle into the afternoon. For most places, though, it is going to be dry. As I say, a bit more cloud around compared to yesterday, but still some good spells of sunshine, and temperatures just starting to tick up. So most of us into the low 20s by this afternoon. As we go through this evening, not a great deal of change. A fine summer's evening across the south, with temperatures still over 20 degrees well into the evening. As I said, a bit more cloud bubbling up. There's the very small chance of seeing a shower over South Wales and southwest England. I think we'll see brighter skies by the end of the day across Northern Ireland. Quite a bit of cloud across Scotland, but here too, as that rain pulls away, we should see some sunny spells coming out across northern Scotland by the end of the evening time. The wind's fairly light, except for a bit of a breeze blowing in the far northwest. That'll continue overnight. Elsewhere, we've still got light winds, so could just turn a little misty in places, particularly around some coasts. And still the cloud thickening for a bit of drizzle on the west coast of Scotland. Temperatures holding up in the teens. In London, we may not dip below 16 degrees Celsius. And Thursday will be a warmer day again. Temperatures just a little bit higher by tomorrow. Any early mist will clear away. Some coasts, the east coast of Northern Ireland, west coast of Wales and the east coast of England, could be a little misty. There'll again be some patchy rain over the Northern Isles and the Western Isles, and perhaps at times into the far north of the mainland of Scotland. But most of it is looking sunny tomorrow, and those temperatures ticking up. Tomorrow won't be the last day we see 30 degrees.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
See, we may all be praising this hot weather and whatever, but I'm reading today that hot weather may cause bees to lose their buzz. Climate change is reducing the frequency and pitch of wing vibrations of bumblebees, and therefore they don't buzz at the same level
Interesting.
anymore. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
There
are so many different angles.
When did you last hear a bee buzz?
Well, I mean, we had one in the kitchen the other day, so...
And it was buzzing?
It was. In fact, I think it stung one of our cats, because you know what cats are like, they love catching things, and she was not anticipating the sting, and she kind of walked off and nursed herself. I mean, the bee died, obviously.
Oh,
but,
dear.
Anyway, she won't do that again, will she?
No, she's not in a hurry. And you may want to do this again in a hurry. Your chance to win our biggest cash prize yet in the Great British Giveaway. And that cash prize is...
£54,321. 54321.
Yeah.
And here's all the details you need for a chance to make it yours.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, the Office for Budget Responsibility is sounding the alarm on fragile public finances.
Well, we'll be asking whether Labour have lost their grip on the economy. That's next. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Miriam.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Now, the Office for Budget Responsibility has warned that public finances are in a vulnerable position, highlighting spiralling state pension costs and climate commitments as some of the reasons for that instability.
Treasury critics say recent U-turns show Labour might be to blame. So this morning we're asking, has the government lost its grip of the economy? To debate this, we're joined by Labour activist Chris Worrell and economic editor of The Spectator. We say hello, good morning, and welcome also to Michael Simmons. Well, good morning to you. Michael, has Labour lost grip of the economy?
Look, I think they have. The OBR report is pretty clear. We've got these terrible numbers hurtling towards us. Now, lots of these things predate the Labour government. It's, you know, the triple lock that's going to cost 3 times more than was initially expected. It's these high borrowing costs. But I think they have, because as much as you might say that Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves have at least tried to do certain things in the right direction, they've tried to bring some of our bills down, they found that that's been completely impossible because their backbenchers are not prepared to wear what are actually, you know, quite small cuts. They blocked what would have been taking £5 billion off an £100 billion welfare bill. And I think this is really freaking out the markets, because they might think it doesn't matter if we got a chancellor who wants to be fiscally responsible, wants to rein in the size of the state, that the Labour Party themselves, the backbenchers, are just not going to wear any of these changes. So I think in that sense, yes, they have lost control.
Now, Chris, the OBR report, as Michael says, is pretty stark, and it lays bare a path to bankruptcy for this country, and within a few decades if we do nothing about it. And it seems clear, as Michael said, that the Labour government is not going to do anything about it because they can't get any savings through their backbenchers. Do you think that's fair?
Well, look, there's definitely 100 Liz Trusses on the backbenches of Labour, but we've got Nigel Farage also agreeing with them. So I think when we're looking at the people that are calling for a debt apocalypse, and, you know, it's true, there is long-term trends. But when you look at the stability of the UK economy in comparison to sort of other economies, you've got USA, our spreads and our gilts They're not that high.
Chris, I'm
It's
sorry to
actually
cut you
quite
up, but that's just not true. That's not what this report says. It says that a toxic mix of both high debt and an extraordinary proportion of our debt at very high interest rates, if you like. We've put our debt on a credit card rather than a mortgage, unlike other countries, make the UK almost uniquely vulnerable to future shocks.
Well, look, if we were having a crisis, the pound would be falling. It's the strongest in 4 years. The credit default swap market, remember the big short in 2008, it's lower than it's ever been in the last 10 years. So and when we look at our debt to GDP ratio, if you compare it to France, you compare it to USA and a number of other countries like Japan, we're actually, 6th or 7th down the list as how much debt we have. Yes, the OBR is pointing out that not cutting those benefits as we should have done to help fund defence is going to have some ramifications. And yes, we should have cut PIP and made it a bit more tighter on the eligibility for people that actually, focused on actually who need it rather than those earning 100 grand. But the cause for guilt hysteria and that we haven't got a stable economy at the minute is driven by global factors. We've got USA right now cautioning against cuts because it might be fearing inflation, and they are systemic. The Journal of Financial Economics shows that there's a lot of misrepresentation in public discourse around bond yields, and this is just more of it.
Michael, do you think Chris is taking this seriously enough?
Well, I'm sure he is, but I think you can't just blame this on global factors. The OBR were clear. The cost of gilt yields, so the cost for government to actually borrow money today is the highest of all the G7 countries. It's right there at the top of the range. And that's not because of any global factor. That's because markets have lost confidence.
The USA's gone up too.
Let Michael finish.
Well, yeah, of course the USA has gone up too. I'm not denying that there are global factors, but Britain is in a unique position in that we're maybe actually worse off last week because the government has now shown that when they've tried to do something that's fiscally austere, they've not been able to. And it might actually be we're in a worse position because it's worse that we've tried and failed than to have not tried at all. Now, again, I don't blame really Rachel Reeves for that. It's something to do with Keir Starmer's inability to corral his backbenchers.
The spread rates for credit default swaps are lower, so that doesn't suggest that we're going to be in some imminent collapse. It's actually
sure. Nobody's saying this is going to happen tomorrow, but just look at the graph. The cost of borrowing is going up and up. The cost of debt is going up and up. The OBR says it's going to hit 270% of GDP.
You're looking at one factor. Looking at gilt rates on its own is just nonsense. If our spread to the US is tracking it like the rest of the globe, global, whole banking system does, just because they're high doesn't mean it's a UK domestic policy issue.
Chris, gilt rates aside, the OBR, and this is not the first time they've predicted this, predict that our debt to GDP will go from 100% now to 270% by 2070, which is probably in all of our lifetimes.
Yeah, we have a massive productivity issue, Miriam, and the facts that are, harming that is planning reform. If our labour markets are broken, we can't live near the jobs, then people aren't going to earn more money. And if we're talking about someone from Liverpool, a mechanic, or a hairdresser from Newcastle coming down to London, and they can't move down here because the vacancy rate, the amount of empty homes in London is like 0.5%, and you've got to wait 8 years for social housing, then that labour market's broken. So what the Labour Party has put on the agenda is planning reform. Has it gone far enough yet? I'm not too sure.
And Michael, what do you think it means for the ordinary man and woman if this continues?
Well, I think if this continues, people worry and say that, we're already in austerity now. I think there's a poll that said most people think we are. The truth of that is we, very much are not. Spending is going up. But if this continues, it's a bit like, it's fiscal hot potato. Eventually, someone who's ever's in number 11, when the day comes where the markets say enough is enough, and it does become prohibitively expensive to keep lending to the UK, then we will be looking at serious austerity, and that will mean proper cuts to public services. It will mean schools closing. It will mean even less police on the streets. That's what's coming if we don't get a grip of this.
Great news. It makes us even happier. Well, so for Wilson, bad enough. Michael and Chris, thank you very much. Really interesting hearing what you both have to say there.
I just find it astonishing how unseriously people are taking it. I mean, it is an extraordinary crisis coming down the road. I don't think people understand just how bad our finances are, and how if we don't make some serious changes now, there will be some pretty catastrophic defaults.
Serious changes will involve more taxation, surely, on us.
Well, I don't know how much more taxation can be squeezed out of the British public. There are going to have to be cuts to welfare and public spending, and nobody wants to hear that.
No, I tell you, I could sit on this programme every day and I listen, oh, we've no money, the country's broke. Oh, here's £100 million for Syria that we've just found on the back of the couch.
The government...
It's absolute nonsense. Yeah. You know, to say we have no money is ridiculous.
We have no money. We're borrowing it all. We're printing it all in.
Yeah, but there's so many things you could just cut and get rid of.
Well, that is potentially true, but the biggest bill is the Social Security and Welfare Bill. And the problem with the state pension as part of that is because of the triple lock, it ratchets up every single year. It's guaranteed to increase higher than wages and inflation, which adds $5 billion a year, etc., etc. But unless we deal with this now, there are going to be serious economic catastrophes coming down the line. But everybody, the governments, previous governments and this government, want people to think they can just print more money and pass the hot potato, as Michael said.
We're doomed.
Yes, there are more interesting, less serious stories, though, haven't we?
Yeah. We'll take a break there. And Carlos Alcaraz, well, he swatted Cameron Norrie aside yesterday. He's in the Wimbledon semi-finals. Cameron is not. Aidan is here to tell you after this.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M9 westbound is currently shut at junction 4 due to a road traffic incident. The on-ramps at junctions 4, 5 and 6 are also restricted, and drivers should consider alternative routes and anticipate additional travel time. On the M4 westbound, roadworks between junction 24 Coldra and junction 28 Tredegar Park have detours in place. In Surrey, a breakdown on the M25 anti-clockwise between junction 9 and junction 8 has closed one of 4 lanes. And on the trains, Hull Trains is operating a reduced service today, while southern services to and from Eastbourne are experiencing disruptions. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Just want to start with Aidan and Chelsea through to this Club World Cup final in the USA.
Yes, and their new signing, João Pedro, signed from Brighton just a few days ago for 60 million quid, scored the 2 goals that got them there against Fluminense. Now, that's one thing that people will be a bit uncomfortable with, because it appears you can sign a player halfway through the tournament to play in a big game. You wouldn't be allowed to do that in the Premier League. That's why they have transfer windows. You can't do it in the FA Cup or any other tournament that I know of, but slightly controversial. But Chelsea will not care, because just getting to the final alone has netted them £92 million. Right. That's why they're taking it seriously.
OK.
And so winning it against either Real Madrid or PSG in New Jersey on Sunday will get them another 7. That's why they're there. And when they moan about...
They haven't had much of a summer holiday, have they?
Well, no, they haven't, but then they'll look at the bottom line and think it was worth it. And in fact, some of these players will probably have played themselves out of the team, because they'll just use this money to buy replacement players for the ones that are underperforming last year. Yeah. But nonetheless, they're there. Congratulations to them.
No. Jamie Vardy, yes. Are Man United realistically in the hunt to sign Jamie Vardy short term?
Well, he has to be an option, because he has Premier League pedigree,
proven goal
scorer over a number of seasons since joining Chelsea from.
Depends what you'd have to pay for him and what you'd pay for his wages.
Yeah, wages. He won't. Well, he's a free agent, so he wouldn't have to pay anything in terms of transfer fee. But I think United could stretch to the wages. I mean, look, he's scored 9 goals in 35 matches last season, but most of those wouldn't have been starts. Most of those would have been off the bench. And he played it's harder to score goals in a struggling team, and they were abject last season, weren't they? Leicester City, let's be honest about it. Yeah. But Wrexham are in with a shout as well in the Championship. Rangers north of the border could also be interested as well. But at the age of 38, I still think he's got something to give.
He's 38.
I know.
I mean, I agree. I'm a great fan. I think he's an amazing guy. But he's 38.
I know he is, yes, but footballers are going later and later now because of sports science. He doesn't look as if he's lost any of his pace.
Ronaldo's what, 40?
Getting on for 40, yeah.
Yeah, incredible.
40, which is, I mean, I think he wants to become... He wants to do a Stanley Matthews. Mr. Stanley Matthews. He wants to play till he's 50. I'm convinced of that.
Did he play till he was 50?
He did indeed. Yeah. Statue of him outside Stoke City's ground as well.
Wow.
Ronaldo, you're talking about?
No. So Stanley Matthews played until he's 50, but I think Ronaldo wants. I think he wants to do that. I think he wants to do that. But look, Vardy might be a good short-term option. As we said at the top of the hour, the coffers aren't as full as they once were at Old Trafford.
And the Lionesses tonight. Why is this a must-win game against the Netherlands?
Well, it's a similar situation for Wales as well, who face France. But England lost to France in the first match, and I think that. To all intents and purposes, it looks like an unhappy camp to me. And I think there were good goal scorers left on the bench. They missed opportunities. They didn't get going until the second half. But if they lose tonight, Eamonn, they are almost all but out. And that would be very embarrassing for a team that won the trophy 3 years ago against Germany.
3 years ago, yeah. Aidan, thank you very much indeed. Still to come, we'll be going through the newspapers with Christo and Claire Muldoon. And if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's where it is.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Largely sunny skies across the Mediterranean. It is a little bit breezy in parts of Greece and Turkey over the next couple of days, but still lots of blue sky to be had here. Small chance of a shower in Croatia, but mostly they're staying away to the north and east. Small chance of a shower across Catalonia as well, but most of Spain dry and sunny. Bit of an onshore breeze bringing some cloud to the coasts of Portugal, and fine and sunny in the Canaries. Continued risk of a shower or two in Barcelona into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Where Anna Riley, our intrepid reporter, is doing the toughest job in television right now, which is enjoying the sunshine. Anna.
Yes, Tom, it's definitely a tough gig for me today, I'll tell you. I'm on the Bridlington Fun Park ride here. This is the Zero Gravity ride. This fun park is, oh, off we go. This fun park is right next to the sea. Oh, it goes quite quickly, I'll tell you. And people are out enjoying, enjoying rides like this one. Woo, off we go. It's a great boost for tourism, and we've been speaking to people here in Bridlington about what's so great about the sunshine. Let's have a listen.
We're on holiday. We've been here since last Friday, so we can't complain. It's been beautiful, and we're here till Monday, so we're really looking forward to the hot weather. As you can see, the sunburn.
It's lovely. It really is very nice. It's absolutely gorgeous. We deserve it, definitely.
It's good. We like the warm weather.
Yes, very nice. Loving it. Yes, like the
warm enough.
weather.
Woo! Well, this ride is showing no signs of stopping, and neither is the sunshine. We're getting that heat wave at the weekend. Enjoy the weather and enjoy fun rides like this one. Get to Bridlington and get to the fun park. Woo!
Oh my gosh! Absolute bravo, Anna Riley. What an incredible piece of television. I hope they let you off at some point.
I thought they'd only do it once or twice. Bless her.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
We say hello and welcome back to Claire Muldoon and Christo Fufus as they go through the stories making the news in the papers today. And Claire, there's a rise in diagnosis of autism amongst young people. Right, you might say that might be a good thing, but it's a bad thing in terms of funding and councils having to pay for treatments.
Huge issue for councils that are clearly running deficits at the moment. Some are actually, as we all know, have been declared bankrupt through whatever reason they want to give. The fact is, we don't have enough money. The fact is, as well, diagnosis of both autism and ADHD are on the increase for children. As a mother of 4 who've gone past the education system, I find that really troubling. I think there's always been people on the spectrum from the word dot, and I think there always will be. And I think parents who want to get a diagnosis for their child, whether that will then propel them above the admissions criteria to get them into the school that they want, is another issue. And I think some children just have to be, I mean, I am minimising this to the nth degree, and I know people are going to at me on this, but kids, some of them do fidget, and some of them don't behave properly, and some of them just need a quick, sharp tag to say, stop it, come on.
And we need to look, Krista, don't we, at the causes of this rise, because so many children are arriving at school non-verbal, as they say now, not able to speak, not able to use the toilet. 25% of school starters this year were not toilet trained. There's a reason for this.
They shouldn't be starting school.
I think that's a really fair point. Look, I think that if you have any of these educational needs, it's a good thing that you get diagnosed. But the basis has got to be there first. If you are someone that has never been taught to speak properly, if you're someone who's never been actually given boundaries and discipline, well, then how will you know whether those things have failed in order to then look at other causes? And so I think that's really fair. And fiddling the system the way that you're talking about as well is completely unacceptable. However, I do think that the neurodiversity is really important, that we get it right and that we actually do diagnose it properly. Because I have ADHD, and it changed my life getting diagnosed because so much had not made sense when I was growing up, and I found an awful lot very difficult.
People do say that, but I do think the threshold should be higher in terms of getting the diagnosis, and I do think as well that the council should not have to pay for excess children going through this system where they've gone on TikTok, they've gone on whatever and say, oh, I think I've got ADHD now.
One final thing on this story, which is also, I think, more interesting, the number of children with social, emotional and mental health issues, so these are aside from neurodiversity, has doubled in this period as well. And again, I think it leads us to the question, are they just a bit stressed and depressed and also being told constantly that climate change is going to kill them and all of these sorts of things? Or is it
we'll move on. Thank you. They've had their say, you have your say, get in touch with us. Christo, would you pay... Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, he's saying that the public won't tolerate another wave of strikes from doctors who want more pay. So Labour are saying, we haven't got the money, we can't pay you anymore. Doctors are saying they're about 20% worse off than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't give resident doctors, junior doctors as they were once called, I would not give them one more penny. They've had a 22%.
I can't believe the two of you are saying that. I just can't believe. These are people who save your lives. These are people who you want your children to be able to aspire to and become. And these are people in society we should be holding up, not sort of saying, well, anybody can do this job. We should be valuing this job, in my view, and paying them what they're worth. What we're simply not doing is paying them what they are worth.
Well,
it's simply not true because
they've had a 22% pay rise, and now they're now asking for a 29% pay rise on top of that. I'm sorry, they've had the biggest pay rise.
I don't go for these figures. If you're 29 or 30% down, you need to make up the difference. It's not saying you're some way greedy. They're only trying to be where they should be. They do make up the difference
because a lot of them work in the private sector. They do 3 days in the NHS, 2 days in the private sector. They get it. They've got the money. The disparity is the fact that if they're in the NHS, they get paid the same amount in London as they do in Glasgow. And to live in Glasgow is much, much cheaper than it is to live in London or Belfast.
Although doctors obviously have great earning potential over the long term of their career, the point that the junior or resident doctors are making is that their starting salary for the first few years, when they're heavily indebted and have been through 9-10 years of training, is only £15 an hour. And given what they've been through, it's... You think £15 an hour is fair?
No.
My 16-year-old earns £12 an hour.
I mean, that's a fair point in as much as what we shouldn't be doing is saddling them with debt.
Yes,
what we should be doing, if I was going to be a resident doctor at the moment campaigning for this, I'd be campaigning for people getting scholarships for this. We should be not saddling them with this sort of debt.
Well,
that is the problem, and that would solve that problem. Secondly, if you worked in the NHS, I'd probably put you on a different tax rate, but that's probably another conversation as well. But also, show me someone that isn't worse off from the last 5 years. You know, there are many people who I value, but I wouldn't give them a 50%
But at the end of the day,
rise.
this isn't really about whether we value them or not and how morally sound their case is. It's about market forces. And if Australia is going to pay you double with half the stress, unless we change the system, whether that is more pay, less debt, being tied into the NHS legally, we are not going to be able to recruit junior doctors. That's the point that they're making. It almost doesn't matter what the moral case is. The market case is a strong one, isn't it?
Well, then I would, like I say, I would get rid of their debt that way. I would not be paying them more. Where is the money going to come from? We can't have it both ways and say that we want to live in a lower tax society in order to drive growth, but then also say we've got to pay all of these public sector workers much more money. There is a balance to be had.
Look, it's also a rite of passage. Junior doctors, from the word "dot," have not maximised the earning potentials that graduates from other disciplines at the same grade will have got or will be getting. And it's only for a minimum period of time.
Well,
let's chunk it.
Another good thing is they've got rid of that term junior doctors. You know, it's amazing to think people at 30 years of age are regarded as junior or not sort of qualified. They're called, I think, resident doctors now. I think that's what they're called.
I'm a junior broadcaster.
Don't we know it?
Right.
Shall we move on to a different story?
Well, I'll tell you what we'll talk about. What period in time would you like to live in? I thought this was a good story, Christo, in the Star today.
Yeah.
And they're saying that, you know, in a survey, they asked people, you know, you go to the movies, what period that you've watched and seen in the movies would you like to live in? And folks said...
folks said, actually, I think, was it the Wild West that they said was when they would like to live in, which is absolutely amazing that they went... Oh, I'm just getting back to the story.
The second most popular was the Jurassic period.
They want to be like in the Magnificent Seven, or the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Which
so
are all very dangerous, violent films.
As well, yes, that's very true. And apparently, Illicit Encounters did the study. The Wild West has always had a rebellious, untamed appeal, so it's no surprise so many Brits fantasise about escaping modern life for a world of adventure. I would go back to being born in 1950. Please, that's the specific year I'd like to have been born. Because I would like to have had my teenage years during the 60s and the Beatles and all of that. Then in my 20s for disco. Still young and virile enough to go out in the 80s in order to, you know, have some of that amazing music. Settle down by the 90s and then probably on a very nice pension now by 2022.
Are you seriously trying to tell us you weren't born in the 50s?
Yeah. Oh, you're like taking that's like taking a bullet.
My goodness, it's a bit early for... for that.
But did you say the Wild West because you love John Wayne movies?
I love westerns, but I recognise they're very dangerous periods. The only way you would survive in the Wild West is to be a faster draw on your gun than anybody else, so I'm not sure I'd
before
like that.
anyone gets killed, we're going to have to move to the weather, but we'll have more later. Here's the weather with Alice T.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Temperatures on the rise over the next few days. Pleasantly warm for most today, with many places seeing sunny spells, but not everywhere. There's a bit more cloud around today across England and Wales, and that cloud is thick enough for a bit of drizzly rain over Cumbria and certainly the west coast of Scotland, susceptible to a bit of light rain and drizzle this morning. That'll tend to ease off, except maybe over the Highlands and the Northern Isles, where we'll keep some outbreaks of rain and drizzle into the afternoon. For most places, though, it is going to be dry. As I say, a bit more cloud around compared to yesterday, but still some good spells of sunshine, and temperatures just starting to tick up. So most of us into the low 20s by this afternoon. As we go through this evening, not a great deal of change. A fine summer's evening across the south with temperatures still over 20 degrees well into the evening. As I said, a bit more cloud bubbling up. There's the very small chance of seeing a shower over South Wales and South West England. I think we'll see brighter skies by the end of the day across Northern Ireland. Quite a bit of cloud across Scotland. But here too, as that rain pulls away, we should see some sunny spells coming out across northern Scotland by the end of the evening time. The wind's fairly light, except for a bit of a breeze blowing in the far northwest. That'll continue overnight. Elsewhere, we've still got light winds, so could just turn a little misty in places, particularly around some coasts. And still the cloud thickening for a bit of drizzle on the west coast of Scotland. Temperatures holding up in the teens. In London, we may not dip below 16 degrees Celsius. And Thursday will be a warmer day again. Temperatures just a little bit higher by tomorrow. Any early mist will clear away. Some coasts, the east coast of Northern Ireland, west coast of Wales and the east coast of England, could be a little misty. There'll again be some patchy rain over the Northern Isles and the Western Isles, and perhaps at times into the far north of the mainland of Scotland. But most of us looking sunny tomorrow, and those temperatures ticking up. Tomorrow won't be the last day we see 30 degrees.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M8 at junction 26 has a broken down vehicle westbound, so drivers should exercise caution and plan for extra travel time. The M4 westbound from junction 24 at Coldra to junction 28 at Tredegar Park faces closures due to roadworks, with diversions in place. The M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 8 and 9 in Surrey has one lane closed due to a vehicle issue, with normal conditions expected soon. And on the trains, Hull Trains is running a reduced service today, while London North Western Railway is experiencing disruptions between London Euston and Watford Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Emmanuel Macron blames Keir Starmer for the migrant crisis.
The French president is reportedly pressuring the Prime Minister to make the UK less attractive to Channel migrants, urging tougher rules on black market jobs to deter crossings.
As President Macron's state visit enters its second day, will all the pomp and pageantry be enough to strengthen the Anglo-French relationship?
Well, the Elysee Palace is pushing back on claims this morning there are any issues between the two leaders, but with the deal running down to the wire, what is stopping this being signed on the dotted line?
Well, it was a night of royal sparkle and entente cordiale even. The King welcomed President Macron to the state banquet, taking the opportunity to highlight some of the challenges our countries face.
Our security services and police will go further still to protect us against the profound challenges of terrorism, organised crime, cyber attacks, and, of course, irregular migration across the English Channel.
A public inquiry.
This state's visit continues here in Windsor after a magnificent state banquet last night in honour of the President. This morning, he will pay his respects at the tomb of Queen Elizabeth II. More details shortly.
A public inquiry finds the Horizon post office scandal drove at least 13 people to suicide. A report lays bare the full scale of the horror.
The infected blood report exposes the devastating impact of compensation delays in what's been called the NHS's worst ever treatment disaster.
12th of July celebrations are set to take place across Northern Ireland this weekend. We'll be looking ahead to see what's in store for what can be quite a divisive time.
It's the end of the road for Cam Norrie at Wimbledon as he crashes out to the back-to-back champion Carlos Alcaraz. Chelsea, meanwhile, are through to the final of the Club World Cup, and the Lionesses face a crucial Euro clash against the Netherlands in Zurich this evening.
A little more cloud around today, but for most a day of sunny spells. A little warmer than yesterday, but it is going to get hotter as the week progresses. Join me later for a full forecast.
Hello there, good to see you. Hope you stay with us until 9:30 this morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Miriam Cates, and this is GB News Breakfast. Well, welcome back, and we're now joined by the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick. Good morning, Robert. Thank you for joining us. Of course, Robert Jenrick's been very vocal about the issue of migration. Here he is. I think we have him now. Good morning, Robert. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Now, what do you make of President Macron's comments about the pull factors within Britain, this idea that illegal immigrants can come over here, can get jobs on the black market, and that actually, unless we sort out those pull factors, there's a limit to what the French can do to help us with our small boats problem?
Well, look, it's important that we have good relations with our nearest neighbour, France, but I think Macron and the French could be doing so much more to help us if they wanted. They could stop the small boats, frankly, tomorrow if they got their gendarmes out on the beaches, into the shallow waters, turning back the boats, as some of our other neighbours do, like the Belgians, for example. But I don't think we should just be leaving this to the kindness of strangers. We've got to have our own sovereign deterrent. That's why I was a proponent of Rwanda. That's why I feel we have to have a very simple system of our own that does not rely on anyone else, which is if you come here illegally, you're detained and you're deported back home to your own country or to a safe third country in hours and days, not months and years. Yes, we should also be tackling the pull factors to the UK. You know, you should not be able to work in the black market. That's why we've got to stop all of those Uber and Deliveroo drivers who are not have no legal right to be working in the UK. That's why, frankly, we should not be housing illegal migrants in hotels, living the life of Riley, when they should be being in detained accommodation and then sent back home as quickly as possible. But the absolute heart of the issue is not what happens when you're here, is that you should never be allowed to stay in the UK, and you should be removed as quickly as possible so you don't get a foothold in the UK.
Do you know what? It sounds to me as if Macron also is in favour of your Rwanda solution.
Well, we don't know exactly what this potential deal is that is being discussed between the government and President Macron, and we're going to have to wait and see what the details of that actually are. If it is true that the Prime Minister is proposing some kind of deterrent, then that's great that he's had a Damascene conversion, because it was not so long ago that he was scrapping Rwanda. And the Rwanda scheme was by far and away the best option to create a proper deterrent, break the business model of the people smuggling gangs. That is what we actually need. We'll wait and see whatever is proposed, whether that happens. We've been led up this path before by President Macron, and he's not fulfilled his promises in the past. We've spent 800 million quid in recent times trying to persuade the French to actually do something on the beaches. So let's wait and see what happens. But it clearly would be much better if we, the United Kingdom, came up with our own sovereign deterrent, whether that's Rwanda or another scheme, and one which actually got on, detained people, removed them as swiftly as possible when they arrived here in the UK.
Now, Robert, let's move on to the economy, and a pretty damning report from the OBR yesterday about the UK's future economic security, putting out that we are on an unsustainable path, on a trajectory to reach a debt-to-GDP ratio of 270% by just 2070. Now, of course, you've been very critical of the Labour government, tax rises, a failure to get a grip on benefit spending last week. But a lot of the blame for this surely has to lie at the door of previous governments, including the Conservative one, who've almost had their heads in the sand about rising levels of public debt.
Look, it's clear from the statistics that were published by the OBR yesterday that our country is spending far too much money, far more than we can possibly afford, and that this is setting up major problems in the future. Look, if Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer do not get a grip of this, don't bring welfare spending down, for example, don't cut government waste, don't end net zero zealotry, the things that the OBR rightly raised, then we are on course, I'm afraid, for a financial crisis. There is no realistic prospect that Rachel Reeves is going to do that. She's now beholden to her far left backbenchers who are preventing any proper reform of our welfare system to get the millions of people who are on welfare back into the workplace.
What would Conservatives do?
What would Conservatives do? Crisis.
Because there are two choices ahead for a potential future Conservative government. One is to raise ordinary taxes on ordinary people. National insurance, income tax, VAT. They are the only broad-based taxes that can possibly raise enough money to plug this gap, or to make a serious stab at austerity that will hurt. It will hurt pensions. It will hurt the NHS. They are the trade-offs. Which one is a future government going to pick?
Well, the first thing that we've got to do is get a grip on government spending, and that does mean tackling welfare reform. We did some reforms in government. You saw in Duncan Smith, for example, in the early days of the Conservative government, serious reforms of our benefit system to get people off welfare and back into the workplace. That is exactly what we need to do all over again, because the welfare bill is now ballooning, and it's going to just get worse under the Labour government. And frankly, Reform as well are proposing more funding for welfare. You're seeing them saying that we should scrap the two-child benefit so that thousands of pounds are given to people for their third, fourth, fifth child, which I don't think is right. We should be supporting people to make responsible decisions and bring down the benefits bill. We've also got to get growth going again in the economy, and that means a more sensible energy policy, so we have cheap and reliable energy, an end to Ed Miliband's net zero zealotry. It's no way in which you can have a successful economy in which industrial energy prices are 5 times that of the United States. No wonder the steel industry is going, the chemical industry is going, the car industry is suffering. We're losing thousands of jobs in the oil and gas sector as well. These are the things that a Conservative government would do in the future. But look, we've got to hold Labour to account now, because as we approach this budget in the autumn, Rachel Reeves has made all the wrong choices so far, and I'm worried that she's going to massively hike taxes on working people, on businesses, on those people who have built up a nest egg when she comes to the autumn.
Well, you say all those industries are going, but I'm afraid you're going too, Robert Jenrick, Shadow Justice Secretary. We're out of time. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Great. Well, moving on now to our top story. The French President Emmanuel Macron, gosh, getting my words confused now, will point the finger at Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, blaming Britain for the soaring number of migrants crossing the Channel. That's according to The Telegraph.
Yeah, there it is, front page headline this morning, which I can't reach, or else I'll show it to you. But Macron, there it is there. There it is now. Macron is demanding tough action to make Britain less attractive, as we were talking there, to the Shadow Justice Secretary there, and including the crackdown on black market jobs. Robert Jenrick was talking there about the Uber drivers, the delivery drivers. I mean, do you ever get any of these drivers that speak English? Because I don't. But anyway, Macron's expected to announce a new agreement with the Prime Minister on Thursday, despite branding Brexit regrettable. He went on to highlight concerns French and British societies are growing apart.
Since the last time a French president spoke before you in 2008, Europe has changed. First of all, of course, because the sovereign British people choose to leave the European Union in 2016, a decision that we respect, even if we found it deeply regrettable. And today there is a risk that our societies are growing apart, that our young people do not know each other as well and may end up strangers. At a time when international current events remind us on a daily basis of our common future. Let's fix it.
Well, you're going on your holidays to France. I think it will be interesting to see what you see if our societies are growing apart, if our young people are growing apart. I mean, you're going with your children who are teenagers.
Well, I'm really going for the food and the wine, Eamonn. So. Well, if this one-in, one-out scheme gets agreed, you know, we're going over on a boat. Do you think we'll be allowed back in? We'll have to wait for some people to leave.
I wouldn't allow you back in, but anyway.
Thanks.
Let's go to
well, you can do it on your own then, did you?
Let's go to our political correspondent, Adam Cherry, on all of this to see what you've got to add to things today, Adam. Good morning.
Good morning. I thought that was pretty much vintage Macron we saw yesterday, of course, attacking Brexit, saying he wants closer integration between the UK, Europe and France in particular, of course, talking about deepening that alliance so that Europe and the UK isn't so dependent on the US. Now, for the government, for Keir Starmer, he probably agrees with most of those sentiments. That's in his political DNA. Also, interestingly, saying that they should recognise the state of Palestine, to which Keir Starmer applauded. Now, of course, the tension here, the question is, can they get this one-in, one-out deal over the line? You've been talking about it all throughout the programme this morning. It was supposed to be in place, as you said, by Thursday, by tomorrow, that summit that the Prime Minister and the President will host. But behind the scenes, it seems like there's a little bit more difficulty. Of course, again, you held up the Telegraph front page, which says that Macron is basically blaming Starmer for not getting this signed. The Elysee Palace is pushing back on that a little bit. So they've said this morning that the French president looks forward to working with the Prime Minister constructively on this shared priority. Is that a denial, or is it more just sort of softening the blow publicly? We'll see. As I said, we'll find out tomorrow. But in terms of what the critics would say of this visit, the UK has sent hundreds of millions of pounds to the French to try and stop the issue of illegal migration, to work on that so-called shared priority, but it still nonetheless continues. We saw last week footage of the French authorities puncturing the side of a vessel leaving the shallow waters. Can they do that more often? You know, what's stopping them continuing to do that? Whilst we on our side, yes, try to address our pull factors, which clearly exist, otherwise those small boat migrants wouldn't make that journey in the first place. So all eyes on tomorrow for that potential deal.
Thanks, Adam. Leave it there. We'll go outside now. We've got outside Windsor Castle. And we've got Cameron Walker there, who's been observing everything last night, and that's where the state dinner was last night. Cameron, good morning to you.
Good morning, Eamonn. Yeah, it certainly is the morning after the night before. I'm outside of Windsor Castle. Last night I was inside, getting a bit of a sneak peek of the 50-metre long table in St George's Hall, which had been polished to a mirror shine, containing the grand service of the royal households, lots of gold, lots of silverware, 6 glasses for each of the 160 guests. And we had some pretty special guests as well, of course, members of the royal family, President Macron, his wife Brigitte Macron. We also had celebrities like Elton John, Mick Jagger was there as well, and of course the whole point was basically to strengthen the relationship between the United Kingdom and France. Both the King and the President delivered speeches, and the themes were certainly about strengthening relationships, but also looking back perhaps on the 1,000 years of history, also talking about the shared challenges of the two nations. The King talking about the profound challenges of terrorism, organised crime, and what he described as irregular migration, and the President also discussed similar themes as well. But of course there was also lots of glitz and glamour. We had the Princess of Wales wearing the Lover's Knot tiara, made famous perhaps by her late mother-in-law Diana, Princess of Wales. The Queen also decked out in a tiara as well, alongside other members of the royal family. Today though, it's a little bit more royal, but then it mainly goes politics. So this morning President Macron of France and the First Lady Brigitte Macron will privately visit the grave of Queen Elizabeth II in St George's Chapel behind me. Then the King will accompany the President to have a little bit of a wander around Windsor Castle gardens. He will then show the President a carriage actually gifted to Queen Victoria by King Louis Philippe of France, and then who will also be shown a horse which President Macron gifted to Queen Elizabeth II on the occasion of her Platinum Jubilee in 2022. And then the royal stuff, the pomp and pageantry, is kind of over, because then the President and Brigitte Macron return to London, and the President will be meeting the Prime Minister and his wife inside number 10 Downing Street. I suspect that's more of an informal chit-chat, because the political crunch talks are very much happening tomorrow in number 10 Downing Street. This evening they're going to be treated to another banquet, this time in the Guildhall in central London, attended by the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester as well.
Wow, very glamorous occasion. And you do wonder, Cameron, how much difference these kind of occasions make in terms of those diplomatic relations. Of course, it's a great spectacle and it's great to show off what Britain can do. But do you think this really does set a better relationship for future negotiations on the nitty-gritty issues like migration?
Well, the King, of course, wields his soft power, Miriam, and I suppose one of the arguments perhaps for having a monarchy, people would argue, is that one of the weapons that the British government has in its arsenal is the soft power of the royal family. It's quite unique to the United Kingdom to have that kind of power. It essentially, to put it simply, it's kind of the way that the King can butter up a foreign head of state. So when it comes to these tough political negotiations, by rolling out the red carpet, treating him to a state banquet, treating him to carriage rides through the streets of Windsor to cheering crowds and all the rest of it, and putting on military displays, that perhaps will make it more likely, the government would hope anyway, that when it comes to those tough political negotiations in Downing Street during the summits tomorrow, perhaps the president could be more lenient to what the UK government requires. But of course, it's incredibly tough political negotiations and nothing is guaranteed.
But Cameron, let me ask you, Elton John, Mick Jagger, would they be actually introduced to the president?
Well, before the state banquet took place, Eamonn, there was some pre-drinks in one of the other staterooms of the castle. The banquet itself was actually delayed by a good hour because the president was a little bit delayed coming back from London. So perhaps there was time to mingle. From what I could see inside the building itself, I didn't see any interaction between Elton John and the president. But of course, never say never. It may have happened behind closed doors.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to be Mick Jagger, Elton John, turning up and not getting an introduction. You sort of think, you know, come the whole way for this. And whatever. Cameron, appreciate it. Thanks very much indeed. And we see it's a lovely day there in Windsor. Where else is it going to be a lovely day? Alex, good morning to you.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Temperatures on the rise over the next few days. Pleasantly warm for most today, with many places seeing sunny spells, but not everywhere. There's a bit more cloud around today across England and Wales, and that cloud is thick enough for a bit of drizzly rain over Cumbria and certainly the west coast of Scotland, susceptible to a bit of light rain and drizzle this morning. That'll tend to ease off, except maybe over the Highlands and the Northern Isles, where we'll keep some outbreaks of rain and drizzle into the afternoon. For most places, though, it is going to be dry. As I say, a bit more cloud around compared to yesterday, but still some good spells of sunshine and temperatures just starting to tick up. So most of us into the low 20s by this afternoon. As we go through this evening, not a great deal of change. A fine summer's evening across the south with temperatures still over 20 degrees well into the evening. As I said, a bit more cloud bubbling up. There's the very small chance of seeing a shower over South Wales and southwest England. I think we'll see brighter skies by the end of the day across Northern Ireland. Quite a bit of cloud across Scotland. But here too, as that rain pulls away, we should see some sunny spells coming out across northern Scotland by the end of the evening time. The wind's fairly light, except for a bit of a breeze blowing in the far northwest. That'll continue overnight. Elsewhere, we've still got light winds, so could just turn a little misty in places, particularly around some coasts. And still the cloud thickening for a bit of drizzle on the west coast of Scotland. Temperatures holding up in the teens. In London, we may not dip below 16 degrees Celsius. And Thursday will be a warmer day again. Temperatures just a little bit higher by tomorrow. Any early mist will clear away. Some coasts, the east coast of Northern Ireland, west coast of Wales and the east coast of England, could be a little misty. There'll again be some patchy rain over the Northern Isles and the Western Isles, and perhaps at times into the far north of the mainland of Scotland. But most of us looking sunny tomorrow, and those temperatures ticking up. Tomorrow won't be the last day we see 30 degrees.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, there's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, an incredible £54,321.
And here's all the details you'll need to make it yours.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, infected blood report exposes the devastating impact of compensation delays and what's being called the NHS's worst ever treatment disaster. We'll be joined by Angela Newcombe, who lost her son, and we're talking to her next.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
On this day, 4 years ago, GB News was born, launching our first live broadcast on June 13th, 2021. Let's take a look back at some of our earlier memories.
If you've just switched on, a very warm welcome to you. I am Alastair Stewart, and until 3 p.m. this afternoon, I'll be keeping you company, along with friends and, I hope, friendly guests. I hope you'd agree that we've had a strong hour of debate and discussion so far, but there's lots more still to come. GB News is all about you, our viewers. Any burning questions or stories that you think we need to cover, no matter how big or small, we really do want to hear from you.
Well, we can now speak with former GB News presenter Alastair Stewart. Alastair, thank you so much for joining me. Thinking back to 4 years ago, what did you think the channel's prospects were? Did you think it would be a success?
I did. Thank you so much for having me on, and a very happy birthday to you, one of the many brilliant faces, as we call it in the trade, presenting programmes, but also to the absolutely wonderful team of technicians that you've got behind you, making sure that this all gets on air very smoothly. And we've not only hung on in there, but we've now got GB News Radio as well. Online, we're huge. We get quite good numbers on viewing, very, very good numbers on listening, well ahead some of the other competitors. I do remember when Murdoch launched Talk, there were quite a few people in the newsroom who were nervous, not because they were so good, but because Murdoch had so much more money than we did. We've seen them off. They're virtually dead in the water now, and we are thriving, celebrating 4 years of triumphal and brilliant journalism.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A leading charity says delays to compensation for victims of the infected blood scandal are having a devastating impact, as the key report into the government's response is due tomorrow.
Campaigners say frustration is growing, with many still waiting for answers and dubbing it the worst treatment disaster in the history of the NHS.
We're joined now by the mother of Neil Hilliard, who suffered from haemophilia and was an infected blood victim. And we say good morning and welcome to Angela Newcombe. And Angela, really sorry, so sorry for what happened to your son. What exactly, how would you describe it, and what has happened since, Angela?
Since the inquiry came out, we're still awaiting the full compensation and the outcome of Sir Brian's report. It's been so slow delivering it. They're actually dealing with a living infected at the moment. I'm waiting for, as Neil's deceased infected, we're still very, very much waiting for his compensation. It's so painful, so cruel how they're dealing with us. Yeah, he was infected with hepatitis C when he was a baby. infected with HIV when he was 12.
Yeah.
He died when he was 22. And here we are, his mum, dad, and his brother Matt, still waiting for compensation for the loss of Neil. I'd rather Neil would be here with us today, fighting his cause, but obviously he cannot be.
Now, Angela, the government has said that it is trying to remove administrative barriers and speed up payments to victims. But nevertheless, it is quite some time now since the previous government agreed £11.8 billion package in compensation to be spread between the victims and their families. Do you know what those administrative barriers are?
I think they've been very careful with fraudsters. That's in line, but I think it's proof of infection dates for the living infected. That's holding up that cohort. Dates of infections of hepatitis B and such. I think HIV people are easier to identify. But even when I received an interim payment, I had proof of identity, because on one of my utility bills, my middle name wasn't on it. They would not accept it.
Really?
So I had to find another one. So
just bureaucracy, just awful. People just forget. I mean, although we're talking compensation and we're talking about big factual things, just the hurt and the pain of people just not considering your feelings in all of this.
Yes, that's where it hurts. And we're living with grief every day, with Neil not here. And it's his mum, I'm 76, his dad is 82. We've not got very long on this earth. We want to see justice for Neil before we leave.
Of course, of course.
So they knew he was poisoned by the state.
They know
and
that.
The state got to put it right.
And you know, Angela, I look at this and the other financial scandal going on, the post office scandal as well. Anything that seems to involve money, everybody draws their horns in. No one wants to cooperate. No one wants to, you know, admit they were wrong in all of these things. And just the humanity of whether people involved in the post office scandal, the Horizon scandal, or people like yourself in this awful, obvious wrongdoing that has been going on. It's just scandalous.
Yes, and as we were saying, the delivery of the compensation. But this is the whole point of this Brian's report today, to see if they can speed it up. Because we have been waiting over 40 years. Sadly, I know the other campaigners, the post office, are fighting for their campaign. But we're waiting.
Yeah, you're waiting and waiting. And you wait and you hurt in that time. How are you dealing without Neil? And what has that waiting been like?
Myself, I suffer from anxiety attacks. My son Matthew suffered terrible. It's only come really to light recently how he's suffering. I've lost one son, and I don't want to lose another son through mental health problems.
Yeah.
Because it goes far deeper and people appreciate. They've recently set up a scheme for help for people who suffer from mental health. But I'm coping quite well in one way, but these anxiety attacks, I suffer. And some people might think, what's wrong with her? But I'll just lose myself for a few minutes and get myself back online again. But I fear for my son at times. It's affected him. His brother was with AIDS and all the stigma back in the 80s. He had to cope with that with Neil. Plus Neil became doubly incontinent and things like that. Matthew helped there. And all those sort of things. The deeper personal family life people don't understand. Or obviously they can't understand unless they live the life, can they?
Well, if they were human beings, they would understand. But, you know, Angela, I listened to you this morning. I look at you And I just want to hug you. I just want to hug you. You've just gone through too much, and you just don't deserve this.
No, it's such a shame. It never happened, isn't it? It shouldn't have happened. They haven't made those decisions, but now the government are in power, should get the compensation through so we can get on with our lives. It's simply I'm angry now. I've got my grief, my sadness, but I'm also angry, which isn't a good thing to have carrying around with you.
Well, you're doing the right thing, and we wish you well. We send you love and commiserations. We hope it sorts itself out sometime soon. As you say, get on with it. You haven't got much time left in the world. None of us have. And, you know, just why wait on all of this? Angela, a privilege talking to you. Thank you very much indeed for telling us Neil's story.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Annie.
It's just extraordinary, isn't it, Eamonn? If you think how quickly money was handed out in the pandemic, you know, within days of making a decision to fund certain things.
It's a very good point.
And the decision was made to issue this compensation just as
What is the problem?
Years ago.
You just look at it, it's just... Oh.
Yeah, and, you know, she's right, there have to be forward checks, of course they do. But in this day and age, and again, thinking back to the pandemic and the way that payments were made so quickly, it cannot be that difficult.
Here's the travel update.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Motorists on the M9 westbound face closures at Junction 4 due to an incident. Find alternative routes and anticipate delays. Roadworks have closed the M4 westbound between Junction 24 at Coldra and Junction 28 at Tredegar Park, with diversions in place. In Kent, multiple vehicles on the A2 westbound between the A260 and the A28 have led to a lane closure. Normal conditions are expected later this morning. And on the trains, Hull Trains operates a reduced service, and disruptions affect southern trains to and from Eastbourne. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Well, still to come, it's the end of the road for Cameron Norrie at Wimbledon as he crashes out to the back-to-back champion Carlos Alcaraz. Aidan will be here with all of the sport next. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Miriam.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Doogie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Doogie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, and it's time to go through all the latest sports news with Aidan McGee. And Aidan, I think all eyes will be on Wimbledon today. Poor Cameron Norrie, but what a spectacle from Carlos Alcaraz.
Yeah, he was absolutely imperious yesterday on centre court. I don't think Cam Norrie would have been too pleased that it was moved from his favourite court, but it did not matter because Alcaraz from serve one was not messing around, because earlier in the tournament he lost a couple of sets. He's the back-to-back champion, don't forget. He's also recently won the French Open, having been 2 sets down in the final to his big rival, Yannick Sinner. And he dispatched Cam Norrie, the home favourite, of course. Always difficult to go up against someone who's got the home crowd on their side, particularly on centre court, and he swatted him aside with ease. And it's no wonder that afterwards Cam Norrie said, this guy is unreal. I don't see anyone past... I can't see past Alcaraz to win the title, because I would have picked Sinner to go close, but he was so lucky the other day, having his game was suspended or it was cancelled because of an injury to Grigor Dimitrov, the Bulgarian 34-year-old, and he was 2 sets down. Sinner was, with no prospect of getting back into it, but he's still in there. Maybe that's the luck you need in a big Grand Slam. But look, Cam Norrie did well. Quarter-final, he was nowhere at the start of the season. In fact, even 6 weeks ago, he was having to qualify for a tournament in Switzerland. So that shows how if you've got the quality, you can turn it on just now and again. And in terms of the rest of the tournament, well, Djokovic is still in there. He's saying I'm not the favourite. Well, he's not on paper, but I wouldn't fancy facing him later on when you've got all that pedigree. You've won 7 Wimbledons, you've won 24 Grand Slams. He's aiming to go level with Federer on 8 Wimbledon titles. He's also aiming to go to 25 Grand Slams in all. That would put him ahead of the great Margaret Court, who, at the age of 92, I think still practices as a Christian minister.
Margaret Court does?
I believe so, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't bet against the kind of motivation to become that world record holder.
He's somebody who's driven for success. I mean, he put a lot of his success, Djokovic, down to coming from a war-torn country. He said he had to fight for everything that he had, and it gave him the mental fortitude that saw him through all those tight battles against Federer and Nadal and Murray down the years, and even Wawrinka. And as I say, if I was one of the pretenders, or not pretenders, because Sinner and Alcaraz have won slams now, they're more than pretenders, they're great. But if I was in that latter stage of the tournament, Djokovic is the last person I want to face, particularly at Wimbledon.
And do the crowd like Djokovic? Who would the crowd be rooting for in a Alcaraz-Djokovic final?
I think they like Alcaraz. Alcaraz played Djokovic in the final in 2023. And the crowd, partly because you want to see a different name on the trophy, don't you? That's what we're in it for. We want to see it go round. We want to see... It's important to have dominant personalities in sport and winners in sport, because that way everyone else earns more money, because you've got someone aiming to be shot at. That's certainly the Tiger Woods effect in golf. If we look back to... I think it was one of Tiger Woods' contemporaries, I think... it was Justin Rose said, we're getting rich on account of this guy being so good and beating us all the time. So you need dominant people in sport. But in that final, certainly everyone was with Alcaraz. I don't know if 2 years on, given all the COVID stuff that happened in Australia in 2022, I wonder whether the crowd would just be sympathetic towards Djokovic, and also because science says that he's not going to go on forever, is he?
No, very true.
Chelsea are going on and they've got through to the final of the FIFA Club World Cup.
Yes, indeed, yeah, and it's a money spinner for them as well. They signed a player a few days ago from Brighton and Hove Albion for 60 million quid. He went and scored 2 goals last night. I'm not sure if that's completely fair.
30 million a goal, that's quite a lot.
I know. Well, they've already earned 90, I think it's 90 million pounds now on account of getting to the final. There's another 7.2 available to them if they beat either PSG or Real Madrid on Sunday. Even if they lost, it's been worthwhile from a financial perspective. And, you know what, everyone keeps saying this is a bad tournament. You know, the crowds haven't been great. It's been interrupted by the weather. Is it a marker for the World Cup next summer in the US? Well, what I'd say is that sometimes these tournaments need to evolve. They need to mature. All the way back in 1958, when Manchester United competed in the European Cup and all those players lost their lives on the runway in Munich that fateful evening, well, one of the criticisms was that what were they doing in that tournament anyway? This is silly European competition. Look at it now. It's full of prestige. And maybe the Club World Cup could go that way also. We'll have to wait and see.
I'm just seeing, I'm always fascinated in transfer news and who's going where.
Yeah.
Man United had a player called Anthony Elanga, who they sold to
Nottingham Forest.
How much?
£15 million.
50 million. And now we reckon Newcastle are in for a £55 million deal. So that would be 40 million quid more than United sold them for.
It's an example of the crazy economics that's engulfed Manchester United in the years since Alex Ferguson left. How many signings do you think they've made that have been any good? I could probably count them on one hand. But it's not just the incoming signings, it's the outgoing ones as well, and that's one that's going to bite them.
Top man, Aidan, lovely seeing you today, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, still to come, we've got the paper reviews. But first of all, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello. Largely sunny skies across the Mediterranean. It is a little bit breezy in parts of Greece and Turkey over the next couple of days, but still lots of blue sky to be had here. Small chance of a shower in Croatia, but mostly they're staying away to the north and east. Small chance of a shower across Catalonia as well, but most of Spain dry and sunny. Bit of an onshore breeze bringing some cloud to the coasts of Portugal, and fine and sunny in the Canaries. Continued risk of a shower or two in Barcelona into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us? And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
You have to tackle gross levels of inequality. Now, this is not about being... it's not about fairness or the politics of envy. It's about saying we need more money in average people's pockets so they can go out and spend. What's happening is a lot of people are spending all their money on rents and mortgages.
So you want to take money off rich people and give it to poorer people?
Yeah, but obviously, when I say rich, who do you imagine?
No, well, I don't know, because I'm not proposing it. You tell me.
So for me, I'm not talking about those who've done quite well, those who've grown their businesses. I'm talking about the billionaire class and the corporations. Oh. And I don't want to look at increasing income taxes necessarily. It should be about a wealth tax, because if we don't do anything about it, it's going to get worse. Now, what's interesting what you said about benefits, I know there's this pervasive idea. I just want to make that point quickly.
Let him finish his point. She's about to spontaneously combust, but hang on. Go on, finish your point.
There is this pervasive idea that, well, we need to cut benefits to force people into work. And you can understand the logic there. It makes sense, right? What's interesting is in Denmark, they have a higher labour rate of participation, which a fancy phrase of more working age people are in work than the UK. In 2022, it was like 80%, 2024, 75%. Look at the UK, only 53% of people in work, yet Denmark have a far higher or far generous welfare state.
Well, we've had a lot of cheap labour that has come in, which haven't. That's taken the levels of earnings down at times, and that's left.
I disagree with that.
Left. Well, just let me finish. And that's left a lot of people who already live here, basically lounging on the sofa and thinking, "Well, my benefits are great. Why should I get out of bed? Why should I get out of bed for another 20 quid a week?" And we've got to get rid of that mentality, because it's the same.
You're
people
using
who seem to
anecdotes
be,
here. You're not looking at the facts.
People
I've told you the
who seem to be contributing to this economy year in and year out, and a lot of them are actually older.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We welcome back Claire and Christo, who are very analytical and very entertaining with what they talk about here. And this is a story in The Sun today, Claire, and this is net zero to cost how much?
£800 billion in the next 25 years to take us up to 2050. I say scrap this nonsense, scrap net zero, and let's get on with our lives.
OK, but if it's costing that, is it not paying us something back?
No, it is not. It's supposed to pay back in climate change, etc., etc. But we have got such a minuscule, tiny, infinitesimal tiny impact on net zero and on the climate in this world. So we need to scrap it. By all means, yes, let's adopt a better way, better systems of trying to recycle, reuse, whatever. But let's stop this nonsense.
Or make it sort of 2100. Make it a more absolutely, reasonable amount of time.
No, we shouldn't be pushing the time back.
By which we... No, but then the transition can be thought out. Well, look, who doesn't want a nicer environment, cleaner air, fewer emissions? That's all a really nice thing. But where I agree with you is the greenwashing that councils and authorities and governments use to say, right, we're going to hammer you with tax and we're going to make your lives so difficult by doing this. Most people are quite environmentally friendly. It's the way in which it's implemented and the speed at which it's
Miriam made a point earlier on, and she said, how much more tax can you take from people? And I totally agree. Yeah. And I'm not even talking about direct taxes. I'm talking about indirect. I'm talking about VAT, and I'm talking about everything seems to go up. Everything has a charge. If you hear again of being charged to park.
Motorists, I mean, if you have the audacity to have a car, but then what they do, and this is part of the problem, is they don't say, right, we're going to make rail so cost-effective and reliable that it becomes a no-brainer to use a train. No, they hammer you for using the train and they hammer you for using a car. Either way, you get hammered.
And half of this £800 billion figure, which has come from the OBR, is not actually an increase in expenditure, it's a loss of tax revenue from fuel tax. So, of course, the government has been, determined to stop us driving or to shift us over to electric cars, but they've done it by incentivising people by taking road duty away, taking a fuel tax. That's going to be a big hole in the budget.
And adding cycle lanes in, making it like a riot.
But meanwhile, just interestingly, very quickly, more than 5,000 people are expected to descend on Westminster today to lobby MPs to take action on climate change. I mean, this is the...
What more action do they want?
The Climate Coalition. What more do they want? 800
somebody
billion?
Take action on litter around this country.
Yes.
I mean, even driving here to work this morning, I was just disgusted by the amount of litter there is on roads, particularly motorway type roads. Awful.
Funny how that environmental
let's talk
is
about
ignored.
It's enough to make you cry. Christo, this is a story in the Mail today. More than half of people have cried at work. This is after the Rachel Reeves situation.
Eamonn, I feel very attacked. I'm having a personal problem, Eamonn. Yes, this is Rachel Reeves.
Get him off.
And basically, a survey has come out today saying actually about half of workers, more than half, admit they have cried at work at least once. And, of course, she very famously said...
Let's just do a quick poll round here. Have you cried at work?
Once, when I was much younger, and I left the room because it's unprofessional the way that she cried in public. Outrageous, I think.
OK, Miriam?
Not that I can remember, and not in public, certainly.
Not in public, no, not at work.
Well, I cried at work. I was 22 years of age, and my sports editor called me in and he said to me, "What's wrong with that script?" And I read it. I remember what the script was about. It was about darts and whatever, and I went, I don't know. And the next minute, he fired a ceramic cup like that, bang, against the wall behind me, and it smashed.
No.
And I went like this. He said, "I'll ask you again, what's wrong with that?" And I went, "I don't know." And he then lifted up a telephone, which had a wire on the end of it, and he fired it, and it hit the wall behind me, right? Now I'm beginning to feel my top lip shudder, and I'm going, don't cry here. And then he said, "What is wrong with that script?" And I said, "I can't see, there's nothing wrong. I can't see anything wrong with it." And he lifted his Adler typewriter, metal Adler typewriter, and threw it down at my feet, which I had to jump for. And I then started to cry, and I thought, I was 22 years of age, I thought, this is awful. But as I ran down, my protector in the building, a big producer, very tall man, Rory Fitzpatrick, said, "Young Holmes, what's wrong with you?" And I basically told him. He just went up, and he went up into the office of where this guy was. And this guy was a very big sports guy, you know, very big guy. And he punched him, which was great.
But what was wrong with the script?
Yeah, what was wrong? Never found out it was about Jockey Wilson, the darts player. I have no idea what was wrong. To this day, I don't know what was wrong with it.
If we weren't going to find out, Miriam was about to throw her laptop. If we weren't going to find out.
I was just about to offer a tissue and say what was wrong with the script.
I think HR policy has changed a little bit.
Isn't it interesting, by the way, the two butch men on the panel, so to speak, are the ones that have cried at work, and the two ladies on the panel have not.
Or maybe you get treated more harshly than women, I don't know.
Oh, that's a nice get-out.
There you go.
I'll take that.
I've saved your ego.
Yeah, thank you.
But I do laugh at how he got punched. He was a big guy, and this guy just punched him. Things were often resolved where I used to work at
With punch.
People being punched.
It's called a Glasgow kiss for a reason.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'll give you two a kiss, and thank you very much today.
You're very welcome, Eamonn.
It's always lovely having you and being entertained by you. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Whatever you're doing today, don't cry. Have a big smile, and I think the weather will make you smile today. We say hello, good morning to Alex Deacon.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Temperatures on the rise over the next few days. Pleasantly warm for most today, with many places seeing sunny spells, but not everywhere. There's a bit more cloud around today across England and Wales, and that cloud is thick enough for a bit of drizzly rain over Cumbria and certainly the west coast of Scotland, susceptible to a bit of light rain and drizzle this morning. That'll tend to ease off, except maybe over the Highlands and the Northern Isles, where we'll keep some outbreaks of rain and drizzle into the afternoon. For most places, though, it is going to be dry. As I say, a bit more cloud around compared to yesterday, but still some good spells of sunshine, and temperatures just starting to tick up. So most of us into the low 20s by this afternoon. As we go through this evening, not a great deal of change. A fine summer's evening across the south, with temperatures still over 20 degrees well into the evening. As I said, a bit more cloud bubbling up. There's the very small chance of seeing a shower over South Wales and southwest England. I think we'll see brighter skies by the end of the day across Northern Ireland. Quite a bit of cloud across Scotland, but here too, as that rain pulls away, we should see some sunny spells coming out across northern Scotland by the end of the evening time. The wind's fairly light, except for a bit of a breeze blowing in the far northwest. That'll continue overnight. Elsewhere, we've still got light winds, so could just turn a little misty in places, particularly around some coasts. And still the cloud thickening for a bit of drizzle on the west coast of Scotland. Temperatures holding up in the teens. In London, we may not dip below 16 degrees Celsius. And Thursday will be a warmer day again. Temperatures just a little bit higher by tomorrow. Any early mist will clear away. Some coasts, the east coast of Northern Ireland, west coast of Wales and the east coast of England, could be a little misty. There'll again be some patchy rain over the Northern Isles and the Western Isles, and perhaps at times into the far north of the mainland of Scotland. But most of us looking sunny tomorrow, and those temperatures ticking up. Tomorrow won't be the last day we see 30 degrees.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M9 is closed westbound at Junction 4 due to a serious incident. Closures and diversions are in place, so please allow extra time. Drivers should be aware of roadworks on the M4 westbound from Junction 24, Coldra to Junction 28 Tredegar Park. In North Yorkshire, all lanes on the A1M southbound exit slip at Junction 47 are closed. Expect disruptions on the A2 westbound in Kent between junctions with the A260 and the A28 due to a road collision. And on the trains, Hull Trains is operating a reduced service today, and Southern reports disruptions to and from Eastbourne. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good morning. Well, President of France, Emmanuel Macron, has blamed Sir Keir Starmer for the migrant crisis.
The French president is pressurising the Prime Minister to make the UK less attractive to channel migrants, urging tougher rules on black market jobs to deter crossings.
Well, as President Macron's state visit enters its second day, will all the pomp and pageantry be enough to strengthen the Anglo-French relationship?
Well, the Elysee Palace says the two leaders are working together on getting this deal over the line, but can it be done in time for that summit tomorrow?
A night of royal sparkle and entente cordiale. The King welcoming President Macron to a state banquet last night, taking the opportunity to highlight some of the challenges our two countries face.
Our security services and police will go further still to protect us against the profound challenges of terrorism, organised crime, cyber attacks, and, of course, irregular migration across the English Channel.
The state's visit continues here in Windsor after a magnificent state banquet last night in honour of the President. This morning, he will visit the grave of Queen Elizabeth II to pay his respects. More details shortly.
A public inquiry finds the Horizon post office scandal drove at least 13 people to suicide, with a 160-page report laying bare the full scale of the horror.
The infected blood report exposes the devastating impact of compensation delays and what's been called the NHS's worst ever treatment disaster.
And 12th of July celebrations are set to take place across Northern Ireland this weekend. We'll be looking ahead to see what's in store.
A little more cloud around today, but for most a day of sunny spells. A little warmer than yesterday, but it is going to get hotter as the week progresses. Join me later for a full forecast.
Gosh, and yesterday was hot. A hot programme for you between 9 and 9:30. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Miriam Cates, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Our leading story this morning is all about the French president, and certainly the sun is shining for him and on him.
Yes, he's seeing the best of British weather, definitely.
Yeah, and the best of, I mean, the parades and the ceremony that we have, very, very good. I mean, you just can't beat it, really.
Some of the sketch writers in The Telegraph and The Spectator were slightly mocking Macron, saying how envious he looked of the king's position and his crown and the throne, and how he'd rather like to be king, or, you know, maybe Napoleon.
Yeah, wouldn't we all? So Emmanuel Macron will point the finger at the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, blaming Britain for the soaring number of migrants crossing the Channel, according to the Daily Telegraph this morning.
Well, Macron is demanding tough action to make the UK less attractive to illegal arrivals, including a crackdown on black market jobs.
Now, he's expected to announce a new agreement with the PM on Thursday, despite branding Brexit regrettable.
And he went on to highlight the concerns that French and British societies are that they're growing apart.
Since the last time a French president spoke before you in 2008, Europe has changed. First of all, of course, because the sovereign British people choose to leave the European Union in 2016, a decision that we respect, even if we found it deeply regrettable. And today there is a risk that our societies are growing apart, that our young people do not know each other as well and may end up strangers. At a time when international current events remind us on a daily basis of our common future. Let's fix it.
Well, watching that with you today, political correspondent Adam Cherry. Adam, how's it going so far?
Well, the Elysee Palace are pushing back a little bit on that Telegraph front page. That front page saying that Macron is pointing the finger at Keir Starmer and saying, sort this out, sort this migrant crisis out on your end. The Elysee Palace has said this morning that the French president looks forward to working with the Prime Minister constructively on this shared priority, which essentially echoes the language we heard last night. You just played some of the footage there. It's not quite a full denial, though, and we have until tomorrow, when they have that joint summit, to get that deal over the line, that one in, one out deal. Other than that, again, you just played some of the footage. I thought it was a relatively routine speech from Macron, all the familiar beats, talking about how Brexit was regrettable, how the UK and France and Europe more widely need to be more closely integrated. Look, he's a Europhile. This is his bread and butter, so it's not surprising.
Interesting that Keir Starmer through Windsor. It was
we don't necessarily
extraordinary
know the complete foresight of the entire
Eamonn? I mean,
speech,
definitely
but
the
he was
best of
clearly
British
happy
pageantry.
to share the stage with him whilst he said all this. Including actually saying that we should support a state of Palestine, to which Keir Starmer applauded.
He had that terrible bloodshot
as I say,
right eye yesterday.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I just think I heard you a little bit in my ear there. So, look, as I say, tomorrow is the crunch talk deadline, whether they get it over the line or not. It's interesting. Look, we've spent hundreds of millions of pounds so far, the UK, sending cash to France to help deal with this shared priority, as the French government put it. And yet still, this has been the worst year for boat crossings so far. So clearly more needs to be done. Do those pull factors exist? Well, yeah, they do. Macron is right. Those small boat migrants wouldn't make the journey if they didn't think there was something on the other side worth travelling for. But behind the scenes, it does seem like there is slightly more tension than either side is willing to say publicly, because, of course, this is a state visit. It's all about the pomp and pageantry.
Yeah, just apologies to anybody watching or listening to us. We had difficult technical problems there, which I'm now told that you didn't hear or notice, viewers and listeners, but we did. It affected us. So it was chaos here, wasn't it? Absolute chaos.
I think we remained rather calm.
It was. Now, Adam, just a curiosity thing. Mick Jagger and Elton John were there last night. Would they get to meet the president, or would he get to meet them? Or one would imagine it would be quite a big thing for him. But then look at the size of that table. They could be on that table and he mightn't even notice they're there.
Yeah, it's quite a big table, isn't it? I don't know if they had any personal time together, but, you know, if you're Mick Jagger and you go to an event like that, I suppose you'd hope you get to at least shake the president's hand. But I have to confess, I don't have royal sources. I don't have sources close to the Rolling Stones, so I'm not sure about that. But as you can see, viewers can see on screen, look at the size of that table. So they might have been at the other ends of the room and not had an opportunity to discuss deep political matters.
Yeah. Adam, thank you very much indeed. And we'll say goodbye to you because we've now got the Paymaster General, and that's Nick Thomas Symonds.
Good morning, Minister. Thank you for joining us. Now let's stick with this top story of the French President's state visit. Of course, amongst all this pomp and pageantry, what the Prime Minister is really hoping for is this deal that will help to solve the small boats crisis. What do you think the chances are of signing something before the President returns to France?
Well, look, first of all, it's good to join you, Miriam, and just to say that the French-British relationship is in as good a place as it has ever been. And we're obviously looking at making progress here in three different ways. Firstly, on trade, we had £100 billion worth of trade with France last year, and we've seen EDF make an investment, 12.5% investment in the Sizewell C nuclear power station. That's good for jobs, great for investment here in Britain. Secondly, we will see on defence and security a continuation of the very close relationship between the Prime Minister and the President, particularly on the situation with the war in Ukraine and the coalition of the willing. And then thirdly, to your question on illegal migration, I'm not going to comment and give a running comment on specific proposals, but certainly we will be looking to deepen the cooperation between Britain and France, which is one of the crucial elements to dealing with the issue of the small boats in the English Channel.
But so far it's been a very expensive and rather ineffective cooperation, hasn't it? We've paid, I think, £500 million to the French government to police the beaches, and they've made very little difference in terms of the number of boats crossing here. What difference will this proposed one-in, one-out scheme make, and is it in the President's gift to offer that?
Well, firstly, I disagree that it hasn't been making a difference. There are 12,000 people who would have crossed the channel in small boats who have not done so because of the cooperation. We've also managed to seize 600 boats that otherwise would have been used on that dangerous crossing in the channel. But in addition to that as well, the law enforcement cooperation is yielding results. Just look at the last couple of weeks. There were 9 people in Lille this month where French authorities, law enforcement and our National Crime Agency worked together so that 9 people smugglers got sentenced to a total of 6 to 4 years in prison.
But 9
also
out of
as well,
21,000 arrivals.
These are the people smugglers. These are the people, the gangmasters who are actually doing this.
But there are 9 more gangmasters who will pop up.
Recent days.
Yeah, just in recent days.
And that is to that point, Miriam, that is why it is about more than only, important though it is, the deepening bilateral cooperation with the English Channel. It's about the new strategic partnership that I led the negotiations on with the European Union to allow us to share more data, things like facial recognition, things like criminal records.
Yeah.
It's about work with European countries, which I've been in Poland and Bulgaria, seeing it happening recently because people smugglers, they operate over routes of thousands of miles. That work is important to disrupt them too. But also, by the way, what we're doing here in Parliament, we've got our Borders Bill giving counter-terror powers to our law enforcement to tackle people smugglers. Hugely important. The Conservatives and Reform are opposing that, and they should explain why.
But Nick, you can see sort of what he's hinting at, and he's hinting at if you hadn't got rid of the Rwanda plan, that would have put them all off coming. Well,
I completely disagree with that. I mean, spending £700 million on a gimmick that sent 4 volunteers to Rwanda was not a piece of serious policy making. What is a deterrent is the fact that we've had 30,000 people since this government came to office who have been found to have no right to be here, who have been deported. That is the hard yards of action that this government is taking, recognising, yes, it's a complex problem, but this is not about performative politics, it's not about gimmicks, it's about doing the hard yards to make a difference.
But sadly, the efforts that the government has made, and of course no one wants to see these people smuggling gangs continue to operate, that's true, but nevertheless they do seem like gimmicks when thousands of people continue to cross the channel. And it surely is common sense that unless you break the business model by creating an effective deterrent, and let's remember the Rwanda Act was never actually allowed to happen, it was repealed by your government, unless you break that business model by detaining and deporting people the minute they land on the shore, more gang masters will spring up, more boat manufacturers will spring up, there will still be money to be made.
We are deporting people. We've deported
voluntarily. The vast majority
of
those were voluntary, weren't they?
No, the point is, no, that's not the case. But Miriam, just specifically on the point you're raising, it is also about the law enforcement cooperation to deal with the gangmasters. That is precisely what this government is doing. It is also, as I say, about the laws that we have here to deal with people and to actually be out there, as I say, using those counter-terror powers to do it. Nobody is saying this is easy, but it isn't about performative politics. These are the things we need to do. Our legislation, working closely with the French, which, by the way, is not ineffective. We've stopped thousands of people crossing the channel who otherwise would have done, but also the work that I have seen around Europe, British law enforcement, sharing intelligence, sharing information, working together to break the model of the gangs. But on breaking the model of the gangs, I think we can agree.
Let's move to the economy now, and a pretty concerning report out from the OBR yesterday, casting doubt on the sustainability of British finances, really in the medium term as well as the long term. Now, of course, the Labour government's only been in power for a year. Some of the seeds for this crisis have been laid for decades. But nevertheless, it does fall to your government to sort this out. How on earth is the Labour government going to reduce spending enough to put us back on a secure financial footing?
Look, I think you fairly highlight the scale of the challenge that this government faced when it came to office, and the Office of Budget Responsibility has been looking back to 2010, back at the context that this government faces, and what it reinforces is the absolute necessity of everything being built on the rock of financial stability. This government will not take the risk that Liz trusted with the unfunded tax cuts. We all know what the impact of that was in terms of people's mortgages. People paid the price for that up and down the country. So that is why everything will be built on the rock of financial stability. And when we come to the budget in the autumn, still a few weeks, few months away yet, the Chancellor will, as she always does, set out that fiscal foundation, but also set out where we are spending money, precisely where the money is coming from, because you can only achieve change in this country on that bedrock of financial stability.
Nick, appreciate your time today. Nick Thomas-Symonds is the Paymaster General. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right, the Great British Giveaway. We're just giving you the chance to be in on it, and you want to be in on it because it's 54,321 quid. Have a go.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We'll take a short break there. We'll be out and about and bringing you lots of things right after this short break.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
French authorities first seized the Lady T, and that's an Eastbourne-based fishing vessel. And next, they fined its skipper, Philip Edwards, €30,000 to release his boat. Now, the Lady T, operating legally under UK jurisdiction, was intercepted by a French patrol ship near the Somme Bay. Now, the incident has sparked massive outrage among British fishermen and is renewing calls for the government to stand firm against French overreach in national waters. Well, I'm delighted to say I'm now joining with Charlotte Edwards, who's the husband. Philip is the skipper of the Lady T and is out fishing right now. Charlotte, welcome to the show. I've got to say, here at GB News, we are hugely supportive and appreciative of British fishermen and fisherwomen. Do a fantastic job. So if you're nervous about the interview, please don't be. I want to ask you how on earth this happened. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, for example, that the Lady T didn't have the correct paperwork, it was fishing illegally, and the French decided to pounce. What's the reality?
The paperwork just slipped through. It was an admin error. The other two boats had the permits, and unfortunately, his didn't at the time. He wasn't in as far in as they said he was. He was about 800 metres in their water. He wasn't near the 12-mile.
He was intercepted by the Pluvier. That's a French Navy ship. No, by the way, the sort of French Navy ships that just seem to give an escort to illegal dinghies coming into British waters, suddenly pouncing into action. The only boat they've managed to stop seems to be the Lady T.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very controversial time of the year in Northern Ireland. This year, this weekend, is what you call the 12th of July. They used to be called protests, they're now called celebrations. But why do they happen at all for something 300 years ago? Well, very, very interesting, as Dougie Beattie now explains.
The UK is a place we all take for granted. We enjoy its religious freedoms and democratic institutions, but these were all fought for, especially in the late 15 and 1600s. In 1588, Elizabeth I smashed the Spanish Armada and put down a rebellion of the Irish Earls that bankrupted Ulster's economy. In 1603, James VI of Scotland unites the crowns and becomes James I. He plants the Presbyterians from Scotland into Ulster to refloat an Irish economy. Charles I reopens the religious question, and from the conflict that follows would see not only his death, but Britain become a republic under Oliver Cromwell. 1660, Charles II restores the monarchy, but punishes nonconformists. In 1685, James II is a tyrannical monarch. He's a strong ally of Louis of France. He raises an Irish army to challenge revolution. But his 3-year reign would come to an end by his daughter Mary and her husband William. They become the first constitutional and only joint monarchy. They introduce the Bill of Rights, the Bank of England, and hand more powers to Parliament.
The Glorious Revolution really is the most pivotal moment in our history within the British Isles. It creates a new constitutional settlement, and it has many layers to it as part of a wider European conflict, the balance of power of Europe. It's part of a civil war, essentially, for the throne here in the British Isles, and it's also hides a number of family disputes.
The 12th of July is still celebrated across the world because many countries adopted the Bill of Rights from 1688. And after the revolution, many more left the UK and headed for America.
So that's the 12th of July this weekend on Saturday. Coverage all day on GB News. Now, before the break, Eamonn, we were talking to Nick Thomas-Symonds, Government
Paymaster
Minister.
General. Yeah.
Indeed, and he claimed that deportations of illegal migrants were up under this government. Now, deportations are up, but I pointed out the majority of those were voluntary, people returning voluntary. He said I was wrong. But I've just looked up the statistics, and actually there were 25,000 voluntary returns last year, which was an increase, and just 8,000 enforced returns, also an increase. But nevertheless, the vast majority of people being returned are doing so on a voluntary basis.
On a voluntary basis.
Just to make that clear.
All right. We say hello, good morning to Andrew and Beverly as to what you guys have got this morning.
I'm glad you've got a chat. You've got to push back at these ministers. They do it all the time.
It's just factually incorrect.
Yeah.
I mean, deportations are up, but the vast majority, 3 to 1.
And the numbers coming here are up dramatically.
Indeed.
And that ridiculous stunt puncturing the dinghy was for the benefits of the camp.
Of the state visit.
Because of the state visit.
So you think that was all pre-planned?
I do.
Managed?
Completely. Funny that there was a camera crew nearby when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cynical. But they are not dealing with the small boats at all. And he said in his speech, didn't he, yesterday, in the House of Lords, to the President, we've got to do our fair share because of the, what was it, the pull points?
Yeah, the pull factor.
The pull factor, the benefits, the hotels, and the fact that they put one foot in the black market, black economy and work.
Yeah.
So the government's not getting a grip on either side.
And this is a big deal that we might be losing more jury trials. That's a huge change to our democracy because you put the power solely in the hands of people who may have a vested interest in a certain sense.
OK, we'll look forward to watching this morning. Thank you, guys.
Let's get some nice weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Temperatures on the rise over the next few days. Pleasantly warm for most today, with many places seeing sunny spells, but not everywhere. There's a bit more cloud around today across England and Wales, and that cloud is thick enough for a bit of drizzly rain over Cumbria and certainly the west coast of Scotland, susceptible to a bit of light rain and drizzle this morning. That'll tend to ease off, except maybe over the Highlands and the Northern Isles, where we'll keep some outbreaks of rain and drizzle into the afternoon. For most places, though, it is going to be dry. As I say, a bit more cloud around compared to yesterday, but still some good spells of sunshine and temperatures just starting to tick up. So most of us into the low 20s by this afternoon. As we go through this evening, not a great deal of change. A fine summer's evening across the south, with temperatures still over 20 degrees well into the evening. As I said, a bit more cloud bubbling up. There's the very small chance of seeing a shower over South Wales and southwest England. I think we'll see brighter skies by the end of the day across Northern Ireland. Quite a bit of cloud across Scotland, but here too, as that rain pulls away, we should see some sunny spells coming out across northern Scotland by the end of the evening time. The wind's fairly light, except for a bit of a breeze blowing in the the far northwest. That'll continue overnight. Elsewhere, we've still got light winds, so could just turn a little misty in places, particularly around some coasts. And still the cloud thickening for a bit of drizzle on the west coast of Scotland. Temperatures holding up in the teens. In London, we may not dip below 16 degrees Celsius. And Thursday will be a warmer day again. Temperatures just a little bit higher by tomorrow. Any early mist will clear away. Some coasts, the east coast of Northern Ireland, west coast of Wales and the east coast of England could be a little misty. There'll again be some patchy rain over the Northern Isles and the Western Isles and perhaps at times into the far north of the mainland of Scotland. But most of us looking sunny tomorrow and those temperatures ticking up. Tomorrow won't be the last day we see 30 degrees.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Motorists should be aware of the M9 closed westbound at Junction 4 due to an incident. Roadworks on the M4 westbound between junctions 24 Coldra and 28 Tredegar Park have shut the route with diversions set. In Greater London, a collision on the M4 eastbound between junctions 4 and 3 has led to one-lane closure. In Kent, disruption on the A2 westbound between junctions A260 and the A28 has closed one lane due to a collision. And on the trains, expect disruptions between Ealing Broadway and London Paddington on the Elizabeth line. Hull Trains operates a reduced service. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Welcome to the Bakerloo line, where over the last year, 2 years, every single carriage seems to have been just absolutely covered in graffiti. So we're out this morning to try and do what the Mayor, Sadiq Khan, seemingly can't. Let's clean up the tube. Look, these doors used to be covered in graffiti, but no more. See, it's not impossible.
Not impossible it is, because there is so much that can actually be done. And just a few friends of mine, actually a guy called Joe Reeve, who organised this all, he's from the campaign group Looking for Growth. And he got in touch and said, do I want to come? And I was like, absolutely, I bloomin' do. Because I think we can show some pictures of some of our work, which was just on Sunday morning. And it was actually remarkably simple. What we did was we sprayed the graffiti with sort of anti-graffiti spray, eco-friendly anti-graffiti spray, actually, as it is.
I didn't know the thing.
A bit of scrubbing, and look, it just comes off. I mean, this stuff is not rocket science. A total lack of imagination, a total unwillingness to do anything about the sort of social decay that we're seeing in our cities and the country at the moment. A laziness, a profound laziness and lack of political will at the heart of the governance of London that means that people are just like, oh, the washing machine's broken, we'll just live with this social decay. Well, no, you don't have to live with the social decay. You can come up with new ways to do things. You can give some people some sponges, some water and some graffiti spray and get that stuff off. It's not impossible. Pull your socks up, Sadiq. Do something about it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 9:30 on Wednesday, the 9th of July, live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Record small boats crossings in Britain. Who's responsible?
By continuing to work with the countries of departure and transit of global migration routes, and as well by addressing pull factors. But let's be clear, we will deliver together, because this issue is a clear issue for our two countries.
The blame game. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, had the red carpet rolled out and then held our Prime Minister responsible for the migrant crisis, saying Britain needs to reduce the pull factors for those crossing the Channel. Who'd have thought it?
Our two nations share not only values, but also the tireless determination to act on them in the world.
That was the King welcoming President Macron to the state's banquets with a star-studded audience, including Mick Jagger and Elton John. We've rolled out the red carpet for France, but are we embarrassing ourselves on the global stage?
Justice overhaul, fewer trials by jury, more cautions instead of prison sentences. These are the recommendations from a former senior judge to clear court backlogs. Are criminals the real winner here?
I think that patients like me will not understand why, having received a 28.9% pay increase, resident doctors are planning to go on strike.
Greedy doctors. Health Secretary Wes Streeting has warned that resident doctors, used to be called junior doctors, he's told them the public will not forgive you as they vote in favour of industrial action. Will you see a summer of strikes, and will your operation be delayed again?
And another BBC star has been sacked. Gregg Wallace has gone from MasterChef. 50 more people have come forward to make allegations against him.
And this is an amazing story. We're going to be joined by a man hoping to become the first person to complete an unbroken round-the-world walk. He's almost finished. He set off in 1998. We're going to be talking to him live.
And thousands of climate campaigners are descending on Westminster demanding MPs take urgent action to preserve our planet. Meg O'Neill is from the Climate Coalition.
This is an opportunity for us to come together and celebrate the power of what happens when we show up together.
Busy old show. A lot to talk about this morning.
Those hospital doctors, they got a 23.5% pay rise. One of the first things the Labour government did, and the Health Secretary Wes Streeting said no more strikes by the doctors. They called up all industrial action. They've been offered 5.3 or 5.4%. That's the highest in the public sector this year. They voted to go on strike. They want 29%. They're not going to get it, but they will go on strike. And that's going to wreck the government's strategy of cutting waiting lists. They are being greedy.
They are being greedy, actually. gbnews.com/your say. Very busy show. First, let's get a 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Bev, thank you. The headlines at 9:30. Emmanuel Macron and his wife continue their state visit to the UK. The couple stayed at Windsor Castle last night, hosted by the King and Queen Camilla. The French president blames Britain for the soaring number of migrant crossings the Channel. Meanwhile, the south of France is battling severe wildfires that have forced the closure of Marseille airport. At least 400 people have been evacuated from their homes, according to French media. Gregg Wallace has been sacked as presenter of MasterChef after an independent inquiry into allegations of serious misconduct. The decision comes as 15 new claims emerge, including accusations that Wallace groped colleagues and exposed himself to junior staff. And thousands of cases that would normally be heard in front of a jury should be decided by judges alone, according to recommendations made by a former senior judge. And those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.